Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Dan Tag.
Hey, what's up?
There we go, Dan Tag Blazer. And then we have JV Gwaltney. Hey, everyone. Welcome. And Joe Juba. Hey. And Serial Vasquez.
Hi.
JV, you're big on looking into the camera for the video version of the show. I'm curious, when did you start doing that? Why did you think that was a good idea?
I don't know. I just want to look. I want to look our viewers in the eyes, let them know that I love them.
But the funny thing is, you don't know which camera Wade in the booth has switched to, so it's just a real crapshoot of looking at something that people don't understand.
It's like I have one out of 3 chances.
That's right.
Yeah, I like that. I like those odds.
Speaking of exciting, we have a new issue of Game Informer out and about. Digital version's out now. Print versions should be going out very soon. Joe, what is the theme for this one?
The theme is the top 100 RPGs of all time.
What a novel concept. We have the big official Game Informer list of top 100 RPGs. You can check out the issue, find out all that stuff. But that's the hive mind. That is the weird melting pot where everybody turns a certain shade of gray or brown. I don't know exactly how melting pots work. This podcast, the point is to stand out from our own perspective, our personal top 5 RPGs of all time, what we feel the most passionate about. So disconnected from that list, this is where we look inward and we get correct internally.
Yeah. I'm looking at the folks we've got here, and I am interested in this discussion. I can't wait to hear what everyone has to say here.
I have no idea what anybody's going to say. Joe, I can probably guess a couple. JV Gwaltney, I have no idea what it's going to be, but after we do this and break down, 25 RPGs in theory, I'm sure there's going to be some overlap. Then we have some great community emails. We'll swap out some people. And then after that, we have an interview with Tamim from Ninja Theory. Because of the new issue, we also are putting the last issue to bed, which means goodbye, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. So with this interview with Tamim, who's one of the co-founders of Ninja Theory, by the way, we talk a lot about Hellblade, have some great community questions that we filter in there. Dan Tech seems horrified and excited.
I'm very excited about it.
Horrified and excited. Dan, that's how people read your face. It's either sheer horror or excitement and glee. We can't quite get a read.
Or condescension. There's always some condescension.
See, the condescension is completely false. I very rarely am actually condescending. Very rarely. It's just you need to interpret it that way. All right.
We love you, Dan. Anyways, so Joe, you might like this interview with Tamim because we talk a lot about early days of Ninja Theory. We talk about developing DMC, like his conversations with the Devil May Cry 4's director, about the direction for the new DMC, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Someone wrote in with just like the most basic question, but it turns out it's interesting, which is just, how did you guys get involved with Andy Serkis? So yeah, I guess I don't know that, but now that Andy Serkis has taken over 60% of Disney's profits, it's interesting to reflect back on his early work with Ninja Theory, and the way they connected is just bizarre. And then he also talks about like how he wants to maybe eventually make a horror game in VR. So some fun conversations there.
We have no schools.
That's right. It's a deep cut. It's like the 158 rapid fire questions with this guy, but he's an interesting developer, and it's great to have his insights. So stay tuned for that. As for now, top 5 RPGs. Let's do it. Our personal top 5 list.
This is going to be intense.
It's going to be a credibility shattering discussion.
Oh boy.
Again, Serial.
Hi.
You could come in with anything and I would not be surprised.
Okay.
The field is wide open, but let's start with Dan Tag. PC Master,
That's
Dan
right.
Tag. I don't know if you're going new PC.
I don't think my list is going to shock anyone, to be honest with you.
I think it will. I think
really
it will.
don't.
Number 5, Dan. What is it?
Number 5 might be the most surprising on my list.
Okay.
And it's not a PC game. My number 5 is Bloodborne.
The murky realm of Bloodborne.
I think it is like the most cohesive and like the story and the gameplay and everything looped together so perfectly in that game. I think it's the culmination and the realization of like all of the Dark Souls stuff. It's like, let's take the intimidation and the fear that's inherent to the dark fantasy, put it in a game where it really shines into a Lovecraftian horror story where you don't even know that at the beginning, and you just layer upon layer, you find out these crazy things as the game goes on. As your character gets progressively more insane, right? And you can see the hidden world around you. It's so awesome that it's delivered in that package. It just hits all the bells and whistles.
How long did it take for you to truly appreciate all of Bloodborne? Was it a slow realization as you're going through, like, oh, this is the best of this?
I think for most people, as it was for me, the halfway point. At the beginning point of the game, I was just like, okay, this is a Victorian horror game. I think it's cool. It's cool that we're playing Dark Souls with werewolves and, Gothic London, whatever setting. Oh, that's cool. And then it's like, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. This is actually not a Victorian horror story at all. This is a Lovecraftian cosmic horror thing going on behind the scenes, and it's there the whole time. You just can't see it, which is like the whole thing. It's crazy good.
And one thing, I mean, we may not remember this super clearly now, but like leading up to Bloodborne's release, the whole like Lovecraftian angle was not a big like publicized selling point of that game.
Wish it would have been a very easy
never-
marketing bullet point. Like,
It was
you guys
never
like
any
Lovecraft?
marketing materials whatsoever. It was always like there's werewolves and giant beasts you kill, and you're a hunter. That's it.
Yeah, so you get the sense that it's maybe a little more like, I don't know, Penny Dreadful, that show or something, you know, that it's maybe just a little more like, yeah, gothic Victorian.
Nightmare creatures, please.
Silver
Just
bullets,
whatever.
werewolves, vampires, that whole thing. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But it just goes way farther, and it's just like, again, you take some of the elements that are in the Souls games, which is like, you know, you're in a boss fight, it's scary. You are actually being intimidated by this incredibly fearsome presence that's going to destroy you. And all these elements come together, like even the sound. Like, you don't think about this, but the music and the sound, which is, again, only in the boss fights, right? For a good example, take this challenge. Go play like a Souls game or Bloodborne and just turn off all the sound during the boss. It loses so much of the fear and trepidation that are inherent because, like, just to take the strategic game Father Gascoigne fight, for example. Like, it's crazy how that fight's soundtrack continues to change as the fight changes. It gets extremely intense during the phase where he's a beast. Like, there is palpable fear, man. It's really great. And that's just recurrent theme of the game. Mystery, fear, intimidation, all these elements that are in Souls work way better in a horror setting.
Now, what do you have to say to those people out there? And I don't want to get bogged down in definitions, but I'm sure there are people that are like, it's kind of an action game, RPG elements. Joe, Dan, everybody, where do you fall on the spectrum of...
It is an action game, but at the same time, I can attest to this. You can out-level encounters, all right? If you want to, you can get experience, levels, gear, all these elements that make an RPG are in that game. And the thing is, like, and this was a problem we had when making the list. The RPG is a nebulous concept.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and ultimately, I think that it's one that like coming up with an easy, like a nailed down definition of what an RPG is. Like I just don't know that you can do that. Like it's easy to point at something and be like, Bloodborne, that's not an RPG. Zelda, Breath of the Wild, that's not an RPG. But then what is?
Clearly.
Like what makes an RPG? What are the defining factors in any checklist that you come up with? And like, I bet I can find you a counter example that's like, well, this does or doesn't have these things, and is that an RPG? And you'd be like, well, yeah. And then, you know, I mean, well, and I'm not saying this to brag about my knowledge of this so much as, you know, that just to highlight the diversity of this genre and the fact that it is really hard to nail down a specific definition, especially now in the current like gaming landscape when just like so much of it is bled into so many other different genres.
Yeah.
So every game is an RPG now, basically. Like there's so many, like sports games are freaking RPGs now. Like it's absurd, right? Like, and that was one of the challenges with making this list.
Absolutely. Even these personal lists.
I think that ended up being the longest argument we had. It wasn't like any particular game on the list. It was, okay, is this not or is it an RPG? Like, what is an RPG? That was, I think, the biggest discussion I think we had when making that list.
Yeah. And we did, I mean, I think that we came up with some good sort of guideposts for it, but ultimately, I don't feel like we were bound by them either. I think it's, generally when you're thinking about what is an RPG, I think that a lot of us on set just sort of take that old, like, what's that old saying? Like, I know porn when I see it. Or something, you know?
As Supreme Court once said, we watch porn.
I think usually when someone would bring up a game and people would say, well, that's not an RPG, I think if you could make a good enough case for it, I think we ended up including it on the list.
Yeah.
List or no list, we're doing the right lists now.
Okay. So Dan's infallible list. All right, Bloodborne. Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Great choice.
I think it is.
Wonderful.
His choices, I know, are going to just... Yours.
Why?
I actually think I might have a pretty good read on JV's.
I think JV's Sorial's choices are going to make me go insane.
I mean, I know his number one. I know his number one, like, for sure.
But JV, what is your number 4?
My number 4 or 5?
Number 5.
Fallout 2 is my number 5.
Interesting.
I fell in love with the isometric Fallouts when they were coming out, even the Tactics one, the Brotherhood of Steel one, because I got all 3 of them.
Was that the one on PS2?
No. I mean, there was one on PS2, but this one was just like a straight-up tactics game, like XCOM.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Jagged Alliance. It wasn't that good. It wasn't. It was fine for what it was, but it was definitely a spinoff. You know, it has that sort of DVD spinoff quality about it. But I really liked. I think Fallout was the first series I played, definitely the first RPG series that gave the idea of the open world. Like, this is what open world games can be. Like, it's just huge, and not only is it huge, there are different settlements with characters I actually want to interact with and not throw away villagers or whatever. And there were storylines that ran throughout it that you could resolve or not even touch. You didn't necessarily have to even do the main story. And that was like just, so big for me when I was younger. And then I loved, and I know this is kind of taken for granted with Fallout now, because the game ends, you do the main quest, and then it goes back through and it shows you like how you affected the landscape, how these people live now. And the first game did a decent job with that, but it had a timer. And for you had to beat the game in a certain amount of days, in-game days, or you failed. Fallout 2 removed that. And so,
1 to 2 situations.
But I think Fallout 2 still has the most satisfying storytelling. I think it still has the most satisfying NPCs, the most satisfying setting, except for maybe New Vegas. I think New Vegas comes close to capturing, for me, what made Fallout 2 so special. But yeah, that's basically the reason it was my number 5.
That's interesting. I've never heard somebody, and I am very naive when it comes to old computer RPGs and Fallout 2 specifically, but I've never heard somebody say that it captures a feeling of open world.
I mean, for me, like when I was younger, it did. It's just a massive game. Even now, it's still, because I went back a couple of years ago to play it for a thing I wrote for Pace about Fallout, and it still feels big. It doesn't feel massive, but it still is like, okay, for this time, it's pretty big and it's pretty detailed.
Yeah. Are you a Wasteland guy too?
I'm a Wasteland reboot guy. I played the original Wasteland as part of that Fallout research, and I was like, yeah, this is fine, but I'm not going to play this more than 10 minutes.
Sure.
To respect what it was.
You press X, paid respect.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, number 5. All right. So number 5 is a tricky one for me because it's recent, and so many of these games, like when you're talking about a top 5 list of all time, it's so much of like, this has really withstood the test of time, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So right now, my number 5 is Persona 5.
Nice.
Ooh, wow.
Give it up. Nice.
Because like as I'm playing this, and I think Dan would probably back me up on this. Like as I played through that game, it stands out to me as like I'm pretty confident that this is the best game in this series. Now that
no doubt.
But that is the sort of perception that can shift a little bit over time with a little bit of distance, whatever. But like, has it shifted since you played it for the review? Have you thought back on it?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, like, and that's one of the reasons why I'm putting it where I am, even with these qualifiers, because like, it's been a month since I finished the game.
Yeah.
And like, I still look back on that and it's like, man, that is just one of the best RPGs I've ever played. As I get more distance from it, my sort of affection for it doesn't fade.
Yeah.
But if that's too recent for you and you think that it's too soon,
we'll take it.
Wait, are you throwing out more than one?
No doublies.
Yeah, you got it.
It's not a doubly. I'm just saying for anyone watching or listening that thinks that's too recent to be on there, sub in Persona 4 instead. And how much of a debate is there between Persona 4 and 5 at this point?
I mean, you got to give it some time to settle. But Joe's right. This is one of those rare cases, I think, where it's like, nah, you don't need to leave this. You don't need to leave this on the stove. It really is that good. And like legit, it's not changing. It's not like you're not having I just saw the movie and I'm walking out of the theater kind of thing. This is no, it's really, really good. The end.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always discussion within any franchise about like different merits, things it does well and not well. And so I think the discussion out there among the fan community is like, there are definitely ways in which Persona 5 maybe doesn't stack up to like 3 or 4 in certain aspects, but I think when taken as a whole, it is the superior entry.
I think definitely it's one of those games where playing it, and I think going back to the other ones is going to be a little bit sort of a slight hassle, just because you'll see things in 3 or 4 where you'll be like, they totally did improve this in 5, didn't they? Like the idea that like you can't be tired anymore. I mean, Morgana's always on your case about going to sleep early, but in Persona 3 you can straight up sort of go too late and come back the next day and you'll be tired. Yeah. And so like that was sort of like an issue that you had to deal with. So like Persona 5 definitely does sort of clean up a lot of the trickier aspects of that series.
Yeah, and the series has always been like stylish and cool, but I think 5 is where they just really get that like pervasive sense of like style and atmosphere.
It's just madness.
Really down.
It's like the most stylish game I've ever seen, and it feels like it matters too. It doesn't feel like it's just like, this is a nice thing, but it's not really, essential to the game. Like that is part of the game.
Yeah.
It feels like
Most effective use of red of all time.
Oh, it's so good. I love it.
Maybe since Red Faction 1, but yeah, certainly up there. Red Dead. Hey, Surreal. Number 5.
My number 5 is Final Fantasy X.
Oh, interesting. The smart man's choice. I don't know if anyone's ever said that. Why 10, Surreal? Set a scene for when you first played this.
When it was one of the first PS2 games I think I ever played. I played the demo of it at like a Walmart, and I thought like this is weird. I'd actually never heard of Final Fantasy until I played 10. And I was
in a Walmart?
I just saw Joe just go, I'm so old.
Today I learned Surreal is Walmart.
Well, that boy playing the demo.
I was like 11 years old or something. Okay.
Oh God, I am so old.
What was the demo?
It was literally like the first part of the game where you're in the future city or whatever, and you're trying to fight.
You just heard that sweet rock song. You're like, I can't turn away.
No, and I played that, and I was like, I want this for Christmas, and so I got it for Christmas, and it was just what I think it has stuck with me more than most other RPGs, just because of for one, it's like ridiculously long game.
It's really long,
and it has. I think what I liked about it is it had sort of all these missions. They were kind of like loyalty missions where you had to go and get like the ultimate weapon for each of your squad mates, and you had all these other quests to go and get like all of your summons. And I remember
all sorts of annoying quests you could go on.
Well, I actually really liked it because like I felt like they made you earn all of sort of like the things that you brought into the final battle and stuff. And the spear grid I thought was really cool.
I remember the final battle being super easy.
Yes,
though.
it was. It was definitely
the whole game was really
easy because I ended up. But I think what it speaks to the idea of that there are so many ways to beat that final boss, even though like you don't need all those ways.
Yeah.
I remember my sort of key strategy was Riku ended up with an ability where she could throw money at enemies, and I have so much money, I'm just gonna throw 100,000 gil or whatever at him every turn.
I like the idea of who's the final. Is it Seymour? Who's the final boss?
It's
Roscoe's final Aeon.
Isn't it Jet? Oh my god.
Roscoe's final Aeon is the official name.
Oh yeah.
Well, let
me get to the joke. I like the idea of Roscoe's final Aeon then like planning for any strategy this team of 3 can have, and it turns out he has to go up against someone just throwing an unlimited amount of money at him until he dies.
Okay. I think that's a really cool. It's almost sort of like a like an immersive sim kind of thing where it's like, oh, I found this really weird exploit and I just ended up using it. And there's so many of those in that game. Just because of how varied you can build all of your characters.
Yeah.
Like, I ended up building Riku as like a tank because I ended up going to like Aaron's.
I think Riku, tank. Yeah.
I just went to Aaron's, I think his name was, as part of the sphere grid, and just gave her a bunch of like HP and gave her a bunch of armor. And so the way you could build your characters, I thought in that game was like really cool. And I like as someone who hadn't played too many turn-based RPGs, I liked the way that it had sort of all the effects that modified the turn order. Like haste was like, okay, you are going to see a very visible effect of haste because your character is going to pop up on this sidebar that has.
It makes it very clear.
Yeah. And one of the things, in my opinion, about that game, I played this when I was in college, which is part of what makes me feel super old about it, is the fact that like
in a Walmart though, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it's
where gamers go to know.
Where gamers go to play Final Fantasy. For me, Final Fantasy X was a great moment a great narrative moment in role playing games. I think, because there are games that deviate from this, obviously, but really the bulk of that genre is so much of just like, okay, plucky group of misfits going to take on universe destroying demon, kill him at the end, save the world. And there are elements of that to Final Fantasy X story, but there's just this like, from the way it ends, but also just like all of the beats along the way, it just has this sort of like bittersweet quality to it throughout, that it's not just overflowing with like optimism and
it's a trek towards death.
It is. And that all hangs over the game in a way that is just like, no amount of believing in yourself is gonna beat it at the end of the day.
It's like the idea of your final victory will also be sort of your greatest loss, and the idea that you are both trying to play into the idea of trying to kill this immortal monster and then also circumvent that exact idea like at the same time. And also, one of my friends actually, since I hadn't played a Final Fantasy, one of my friends told me that, Sin's the bad guy in Final Fantasy. So I was like, man, they've been trying like 10 games to beat this Sin guy.
I generally had that stupid thing too with like Final Fantasy 7. I remember arguing with friends. I don't know why we just look it up on dog pile or something. It was like, surely there couldn't have been 6 other ones. That's so many. How could we have never heard of it? It's impossible.
Yeah, how could you have never heard of it?
I was a very stupid kid, but with...
Oh, go ahead, Joe. What's your number 5, Ben?
Oh, I brought, just real quick, Mr. Not Quite Condescending Tag, his eyes were rolling out of his head during that entire conversation. I would love to hear your sophisticated stance on Final Fantasy X.
Final Fantasy X is an excellent game.
Oh, of course, that's what that face meant.
It is not anywhere close to top 5, top 10, top 25.
Okay, because?
Well, because there are other great games, including those in that series.
Sure.
And I think, the reason I was doing that, it's always interesting to see people gravitate towards the Final Fantasies that they started with, almost without. So when I heard his story about this was the first one I played, so obviously I loved it. I see it a lot, and I see the thing that irks me about that, and not Sorial, but the thing that irks me about that is a lot of people who started with 7 or 10,
right?
They think these are the best ones, and they never go back and play the ones that are better.
I played 1 through 6. Well, 6 I didn't finish, but I played 1 through 5 all the way through.
Jeez, you are not.
I played 6 because I got bored of it.
Sorial, that's Sorial.
Just raise.
That's more than most other people. It's amazing. Give Sorial credit. He went back 1 through 5. That's crazy.
We're here to have a discussion, okay? So that's what we're doing.
Halfway through 6, that's when you want to quit. That's when you start sucking.
Well, I like
that's the worst part of the game, man.
Look, I'm with you, Sorial.
Maybe we'll talk about that game in a little bit. Who knows?
I
who knows if it's going to make it anywhere.
Cannot imagine. My number 5, Mass Effect 1.
What?
I understand.
Ben Hansen's picks. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm out of my mind. Clearly, everybody obviously talks about 2, very important, but I love the idea of Mass Effect 1 sucking us into that world so well. It takes a lot for a new IP out there to make you give enough of a crap to be like, all right, let's differentiate here, focus. Who are the Turians? How are they different from the Solarians? What are these names I have to remember? A Krogan? Let alone enough to be like, well, now I need to dig through this entire codex. I think that is a monumental task to come out of nowhere. A lot of people saw it as like, oh, it's just KOTOR, except about the Star Wars license. And to make people care so much, I give a lot of credit to BioWare for lifting from the base level, from the ground with Mass Effect 1. I understand the shooting is frustrating. I understand the Mako can be frustrating. But I still... Perfect. That's right, of course, Jamie thinks Mako's...
Don't make fun of Jamie's perfect Mako son.
But I think just sinking into that world, and also it was just so exciting to have that promise and that kind of roadmap ahead that, hey, this is going to carry forward. You know that your choices here are going to matter for who knows how many years, but going forward, it's a super cool idea.
And selling your game as a trilogy, I think, is a really hard sell. I think that was Mass Effect came out around the time where there were a lot of trilogies going on. Yeah, and so the idea that you would have to invest with this year seemed a little presumptuous in a way. And I think the fact that Mass Effect 1 was able to turn people from I don't know, but that's a big ask to all right, I'm on board. I think is a testament to how good that game is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you played this more than anybody at the table, I would argue.
Yeah, probably. I think I did 6 or 7 playthroughs of that one because I was going for all of the achievements, and that requires some work. But so I really like Mass Effect 1 from a system standpoint. I also like that it is probably the most classic RPG out of any of the 3 Mass Effect games, just in terms of the way your skills are set up, or that is some old school skill allocation and optimization going on there that I really appreciated. But it's so weird to me, and I realize that we have to do it for the purposes of our top 100 list or whatever to split up the Mass Effect games.
Yeah,
but to me, when you're talking about what part of the appeal of RPGs, you've got all this sort of leveling up and stuff and combat and all these other things. But such a huge pillar of that genre is storytelling. And to me, it's really weird to split up Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 just because of the continuous nature of that narrative and the characters and the carryover and all of that stuff.
Well, I just feel like you can because they each have their own beginning and ending arc. You have Saren in Mass Effect 1, you have the Elusive Man and sort of the what are they called? The guys in
Collectors.
Yeah, the Collectors in Mass Effect 2, and sort of the big wrap up.
I feel that more with that 1 is it's obviously insane to call it self-contained, but it's more in that vein than 2 is, where it feels a little bit like that Age of Ultron effect of stay tuned for the future. You know what I mean? Whereas 1, it's I think Saren's arc is satisfying.
I'm not saying that you can't talk about them. I mean, I reckon, it's like a Star Wars situation, where it's okay, each part has its own arc. But to really talk about Mass Effect and to I think appreciate what it does well.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to zoom out and look at look at three of them.
I like zooming in, Joe.
I understand that.
I'm a micro kind of guy.
So this brings me to my number 4 choice, which is Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
You can't do that.
I'm doing it. I'm doing it. That's my number 4 choice.
The order here. The order
Joe, you have just flipped the tea table.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about it.
All right, so you're going 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
For that reason.
to make it list.
That's a little less
That's just
aggravating.
absurd.
I also
We're
think
breaking
that's
the rules.
absurd.
I'm flipping the table. You got to pick one.
I'm not doing it.
All right, give us your
I think that at least for what I really like about and value in Mass Effect is something that you look at all three of them.
I mean, I completely see your argument, but at the same time, we're focusing on single games here. All right.
Hey, Dan, what's your number 4?
Number 4.
All of Dragon Quest?
No. Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the Dragon. I don't think we're going to hear a Dragon Quest game in this discussion. I could be wrong. Although I do like them, I don't think they're in the top 5.
Yeah, there's so many games that are in that bubble. What are they boiling down? Like, what can make this top 5? So there's like 16 that are contenders, and it's so tough to make that call. Yeah, so no disrespect to anybody that's not in this list.
Yeah, well, I also want to just say that about our top 100 list also, where it's like, I've already been seeing some comments about, well, obviously there's going to be disagreement about all this, but the comments about like, there are some like huge glaring omissions there and stuff, and like, it turns out when you sit down to rank 100 RPGs, you would be really surprised at how quickly those spots fill up. So some of the games that someone would be, it's not like we were like making a list saying these are the 100 only good these are the only 100 good RPGs that you should play. Like
you're saying we should have top 300?
I'm not saying we should have, but
we could have.
We could have.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's also so tough when you start making that top 100 list to figure out like how conservative do we need to be here when we're running down like the series and what the standout ones are. It's like, oh god, I don't know how flexible or how tight this is going to be by the end, and just trying to go back revision. Dan Tech, number 4.
Number 4 is actually Final Fantasy 4.
There we go.
This is an excellent game. It has classic characters, a classic story. 6 gets a lot of credit for having the Light World, Dark World thing, but 4 also did that. The second half of the game is my favorite, actually, when you go into the underground and the Dwarven Kingdom and you fight the dolls and you get your summoner gets juiced. It's crazy. Okay, it's a crazy. Awesome
you go underground. I haven't finished 4. I knew you go to the moon.
You haven't finished 4. The moon is the end, and an amazing dungeon, excellent music, cool final boss. Not the best boss in the series, but a cool final boss.
No, it's not.
Okay, but going underground is cool just because of.
No, I'm just saying it also toyed with the idea that was probably better done in 6, where you have the Light World and Dark World. Sort of thing going on about halfway through the game.
For people that aren't watching the video version, Dan Tech's eyes are darting to Joe Juba.
No, they're not.
Like he's waiting for a hammer to drop at any second here.
And you've got you've got really cool classes, you've got really cool characters, you have the ninja, the summoner. These are all really cool concepts that are later explored in other Final Fantasies. And you have the whole I'm a fan of the classic Final Fantasy story, which is you got to kill the Earth guy, the Water guy, the Lightning guy, and those are all in there, and they're really done really well. Like Rubicon is one of my favorite bosses ever. He's just such a funny guy. He's like, hey, I'll heal you guys up, whatever, take it, man. I'm gonna kill you anyway. And you've got other mini bosses that don't get enough credit either. It's a really well done game. One of my favorite Final Fantasies, and just if you've passed on it, don't. It's really good.
For your earlier point, was that the first one you played though?
No, first one I played was 1.
Damn it!
Yeah. Well, and some other great things I think about, or the things that I loved about Final Fantasy IV when I played it for the first time were that game has a ton of vehicles in it. So in Final Fantasy I, which we should say, even though it's Final Fantasy IV, it was 2 in North America, which means that for the North American players, it was probably the second one that they played. So I played Final Fantasy 1, and the moment that you get that airship in that game, it's just whoa, this airship is so awesome! And you get a normal ship in that too, and I'm sure that Square at the time, and the canoe. Square at the time must have been wow, players really seem to like these vehicles that we put in there. And in Final Fantasy IV, they just put so many vehicles. You get you get a hovercraft, you get 2 different airships, one of which gets a crane attachment, and one of which gets a drill attachment.
And you pick up the hovercrafts and move it,
Yeah.
Wait, crane to pick up a hovercraft?
Yeah.
So that you can bring each other.
You got it.
Like what? Light
That's
water
right,
is
yep.
the tiny Bronco from Seven. Is that
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And then you also get a giant spaceship called the Big Whale or
That's
something.
it. Yeah.
So it's like it gives you all of these cool vehicles to like dart around the world, and plus it has the Mode 7 advantage. So as you're going, flying in the airship around the world, it just looks super awesome.
Mode 7 Advantage is also the name of my band.
Oh, congratulations!
yeah.
The dungeons were super cool in that game. From the tower to especially, you talk about the moon dungeon, even though you haven't gotten there. It's a really classic, like, end game dungeon with, like, optional weapons you can go get that'll make your life easier, and optional bosses.
I also, one thing I do like about Final Fantasy IV is that as someone who played those games in order, that felt like the first one where it felt more author than the other ones, where 1, 2, and 3 it felt like you are playing as a nondescript group of warriors who are on this quest to defeat the evil.
Yeah.
Whereas this, like, Cecil has an arc, and, like, Rydia has, an arc. And all these characters have, like, there are
awesome, man.
in the game, like, where you travel between scenes and stuff. And it felt like the first one where it's like, oh, I care about these characters outside of them being my avatars.
I wonder. I feel like something we should maybe do as we're listening to these games is if it's confusing, we should say like the best way to play it now. So with 4, would you recommend going for the DS version?
I mean, that's the one I played.
Yeah.
Really good. But
Anyone that doesn't have those terrible iOS graphics, you can play. It'll work.
Yeah, I mean the DS version is you get the same story and some like improved mechanics and stuff like that. But if you want to go the more like purist approach, if you want the sort of old school experience with it, do the GBA version.
Yeah, that's the one I play.
Okay. A little trickier to get rolling. Or just go on WiiWare and play the After Hours.
The After Years. Don't do that.
Oh,
Final Fantasy IV After Hours
do
is
that.
a totally different thing.
actually, though, I should bring up too. It's also it's a PSP game, but I think you can download it on and play it on Vita. Also,
Yep.
is the Final Fantasy IV Complete Collection, which is Final Fantasy IV, a new it's like a little 90-minute interlude section, and then all of the After Years, which we were just talking, was originally like a Wii downloadable episodic thing, but
Yeah.
I like that package for the sake of like completeness of the narrative.
Totally.
JV Golte, number 4.
okay, so this is the only JRPG in my top 5.
Interesting.
And I've never loved Final Fantasy that much. I've always respected it. So this is not Final Fantasy. This is Chrono Trigger.
Oh, okay.
I love Chrono Trigger.
You zigged.
All right.
Yeah, what I liked about this, and I didn't play it when it first came out. I played it, I want to say 2013 on my Vita.
Holy cow, that's
Wait, on Vita,
really
so
far
So
from
you
when it came
played
out.
the PlayStation 1
Yeah, the PlayStation 1 with the terrible load times.
but also the cool cutscenes.
Yeah, cool cutscenes. What I liked about it was even playing it years after it came out, it felt very subversive. Like the first half of the game is a little bit sluggish, but then you get to the part where, and I come from a text adventure background and like branching path stuff, and so when that game gets to the point where you can it throws everything out the window and there's so many options and so many paths you can go down, like the idea that you can, the protagonist dies at one point. Like, spoilers. And then you can spend the whole game not reviving him. Like, and just play as like one of the other party members. Like, that is a choice you can make. And that's madness. I love that. I love that sort of thing. And all the endings and whatnot. I just love the branching pathiness of it. Because the reason I went back and played it is because apparently it was a big influence on my number 1 pick.
Don't spoil it.
I'm not. But yeah, that's pretty much my reason. I just love how zany that game is, even today. Like, it just feels so strange to play it and see how all over the place it is.
And in the same vein as Mass Effect 1, at least, what I brought up earlier, is it's also amazing to just look back and say, like, oh, of course, Chrono Trigger, but, like, that is a bizarre concept and a bizarre new world that Squaresoft put together there, composed of a lot of Dream Team talent from that Super Nintendo era, all fusing together.
And, like, the artist for Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball, like, what? Sure, let's go with this.
Yeah, Toriyama did like art for it.
Yeah.
Sakaguchi was like one of the lead
Producers, I believe. Yeah.
And then Uematsu's music.
Technically,
Or
Mitsuda. Yeah.
Well, no, Mitsuda did some of it also.
Right, so it seemed like, I think the story is Uematsu started it, and then I forget if he got sick or was pulled off another project, and then Mitsuda did a bulk of the composition of that game, which is still one of the greatest soundtracks of all time.
Yeah, before we move on, I just want to say that, like, the main theme with like the drum heavy theme for like battle when they're always going into battle is like my favorite video game soundtrack from that or track from that era.
Oh, yeah, sorry, you have to go Fox theme. I'm sorry, that's
No, no.
Maybe controversial. I think Chrono Cross's soundtrack is better.
I agree.
Oh, boy.
That's Akira
It's
Mitsuda,
controversial,
maybe.
or-
No, I agree that he's 100% correct. Chrono Cross is the best soundtrack of all time.
So some other stuff to talk about with Chrono Trigger though that's like super awesome. In addition, like when I think of that game, I don't think of branching paths and stuff because it's like you follow a pretty prescribed route until Chrono dies, and then it's sort of like you can do that or you can resolve that quest or that like thread or not. But the other stuff you're doing is generally going to be the same.
But certainly by the time
There are
the endings roll around,
They're different.
There's certainly, I don't know, for the time, I think it had some serious choices you could make.
I'm not arguing about like I don't want to say that that's whatever like a bad thing about it. It's just like that's to me that's not what stands out about that game. What stands out about that game, what is the dual and triple text. Like those are cool. I think about that combat system and the way that it really like the way it encourages you to try out different party members and stuff. Actually, this is something I wanted to say about Final Fantasy IV. Also, to backtrack 1 second, is that like Final Fantasy IV, normally in these kinds of games, you have like, oh, well, I like these 4 party members, and these are going to be my 4 party members. Totally. Even if you have 12 available, right? Yeah. And in a game like, say, Final Fantasy VII, where you can just customize any party member to do basically whatever you want, it's hard to like incentivize players to like use different characters. Final Fantasy IV makes you do it by necessity of the narrative, which lets you experiment with like, okay, I have 1 knight and 3 mages, so I have to play differently than if I have my 2 tanks or whatever. Chrono Trigger is interesting in this because it makes you want to try out all the different combinations, right? Where it's like, oh, like Luca learned a new fire spell. I have to get her and Chrono together to like see what they can do. So I loved the way that seemingly like simple feature really acted as a carrot on a stick for me to like keep leveling up, to keep trying different character combinations and stuff like that, and to try and figure out which 3 characters could work together. Which once you get Chrono out of the party, you can get like Magus, Luca, and Robo together to do some like giant, like dark Omega flare.
They call them
cool.
the Freakos.
Also the fact that you can play as Magus in this game is really cool. Like this is presented as like your main villain for the first part of the game, and then eventually you just sort of get the option of like, yeah, he can join you if you're willing to screw over Frog.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's always on the top of my list for I should go back and replay it. And I've been driving myself insane because I want to buy it on Wii U or just play the DS version, which is great, having the menu on the bottom screen. But then the idea of playing that on that Switch screen is so appealing. I'll probably have to wait 3 years for that MF thing. I'm going to have to play I Am Setsuna just to somehow scratch some part of that itch.
I've been playing that on the go now, and it scratches that itch a little bit, but Joe was right. It's like, yeah, this is just a pale imitation a lot of the time.
Yeah, for sure. And also just, we talked about it a little bit in the Top 100 meeting, but just I love the personality of Chrono Trigger. Lavos, just a bizarre, abstract villain as a concept, but just on the ground, how silly and lighthearted it is, and just the art and the vibrant nature that entire world comes through so clearly. Just lovely.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first games to sort of give the player like a hub as well, which is really commonplace in RPGs now. And the End of Time was sort of like, I think that was one of the first times I can recall.
That's interesting.
That as a concept for your party.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, so Chrono Trigger popularizing the like New Game Plus idea.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boy.
And we talked to Tokita-san, the co-director of that game. We were in Japan, which was a real thrill, and talked to him about like, I don't think he's ever got this question before. Why don't you guys make another Chrono Trigger? And it's interesting he said that, like, ever since Square and Enix merged, there was such a bizarre collaboration between those studios and the Dragon Quest talent and whatnot, that it just has felt holy and sacred since then, and everyone's just kind of scared to touch it. Although they talked about making a movie at some point, maybe. So.
Didn't they also make Chrono Cross and Radical Dreamers?
Yeah, Radical Dreamers is a weird case, for sure, but Chrono Cross, maybe it'll come up.
Maybe it will.
Not that sacred.
I hope not, but maybe.
Sequels to it.
If it doesn't, I want to talk about it later. Anyway, Serial. Hers and it should have been Joe's.
Joe has
topped out.
Sorry, mine was one. The Mass Effect trilogy as one.
My number 3 is the top 100 list. All right, Serial, what's your number?
My number 4 is Dark Souls.
All right.
I think now, subsequent games have come back and sort of improved. I think Dark Souls 3 is basically like almost a remake of every other game in that series. But I think Dark Souls holds up still as a game that you can just go in and explore and just find all these different avenues for approaches and different bosses, and just like they don't telegraph, maybe to their detriment, like they don't telegraph some of their paths as much. And some of the paths, I think, this is kind of one of those things where everyone says, everything bad about Dark Souls is actually good about it. But there are some of those paths that just go places that I'm just not sure. Like there's the path before you go into the that huge pit where you go down, and there's all these dragons there. And before you go to
you mean the unfinished level that they're ashamed of making?
That part of it. I know that from a game design standpoint, it's not like super great, but I think having paths that don't work out as well as others, I think reinforces how good the paths that you do go down that do work out.
I think that's an interesting point. I just want the record to show that Dantek rolled his eyes and then shook his head while you were speaking. But it's not consent.
It's not. It brings up as a benefit the point of a part of the game that they view very poorly.
But he found magic in it.
That's awesome.
Will you leave him alone?
Like the rest
If
of
you
it,
want
like,
to.
you think about like Dark Souls 2, and I think in Dark Souls 3 they go out of the way to say like, no matter where you go, you're gonna find something cool. Sure. And I think that's fine but like
that just seems like good design.
It is. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying
I don't like the idea. Like I don't understand the idea of saying, "Hey, let's put something terrible in our game."
No. I'm not saying
the good.
I'm not saying they intentionally did this, because like Tax said, that
This is, for those who don't know, this is a lava pit filled with unfinished dragon asses. That's literally what it is.
Right, but like
Cyril's into what he's into, damn it.
But there's also that other part, like where the Valley of the Drakes, right before you go into the Nameless King, that area. There's this sort of side spoke where you venture in for a little bit, but you don't sort of go in and explore the rest of it. Like you instead go the other way and you enter that area with the Nameless King, not the Nameless King, the Four Kings in it. And I think like the idea that there are paths you didn't take that you chose not to take is pretty cool in a game where that is supposed to be about this repressed world that you don't want to be in, so you try to like avoid other paths. And I get that it's not good game design, but it's something that like unintentionally I think I found really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 4, just to go easy on you guys, Chrono Trigger.
There it is.
All
right. Well, I'm not surprised at all.
Dantek, number 3, baby.
Number 3. Here's one that probably won't be. This number 3. Secret of Mana.
Okay.
Now, this to me, you might question this one. You might find, in your own personal taste, might be lower down the list. To me, this was an action Final Fantasy game that you could play with friends. So it was a double whammy of amazing. You still had all these cool spells like summons. It presented very differently. You could play with your friends. You could have them over. They'd work up their weapon skills independently of you. They'd pick the weapon they liked. They'd play with it.
The co-op in that game was a pretty huge addition.
Massive.
3-player.
Massive. Yeah, up to 3.
Of course.
Nobody had the the setup for 3, but 2 always.
Yeah.
And it had a really cool endgame dungeon you could grind for the best weapons. A good story. I mean, basically it was Final Fantasy, but action.
So the first action RPG that maybe you played, or that you really fell in love with? You nailed
by
it?
the definition of RPG, I don't know, but it was the first Final Fantasy. Basically, it's a Final Fantasy game, more or less. Right? Maybe a little bit more lighthearted, but everything about it I love. The whole action take on it. I'm like, wow, this is like Final Fantasy, but like in real time.
Yeah.
No turn-based. You're out there smacking things, charging up your weapons, calling up crazy stuff.
If you're a fan of the Zelda series too, like that is that sort of mixture of like, oh, this is what I like about Zelda and what I like about Final Fantasy, sort of in one place. When action RPG wasn't as entrenched of a combination.
Yeah.
And then again, the whole community aspect of it, which is crazy to say. Like this was in the offline times, right? Hey, I'm coming over. We're playing Secret of Mana. We're going to beat it today. Yeah, that was cool.
Ring, baby tack.
And again, along with the Final Fantasy 4, I think these games hold up today. You could still go back and play these and not be like, what in the world? No, this does not hold up. This is garbage. But you can still play it today. And it's still awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other secret games that you'd recommend?
The sequel to Secret of Mana is not bad either, but you have to play it in Japanese still.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Is that
Evermore? I don't know. There's a legit, Secret of Mana 2 or whatever.
really?
Yeah.
Well, be damned. Cool.
Secret of Evermore is a different thing.
I also like Secret of Evermore.
I did too.
It's not top 100 material, but
I still like it, E3, because last year when Nintendo was showing off Ever Oasis for the first time, and Dantek was like, Just scoffing like crazy, and then from the creator of Secret of Mana.
You're so dramatic about it. I wasn't scoffing. I was probably sitting there in the sweatbox we call our E3 room, eating a sandwich. Probably just be like, I'd probably cough once, and he's like, "Oh, look at him! He's so condescending."
Are you kidding me? Sorry, I was trying to explain why he likes a game, and your eyes were rolling out of your head.
Is this a discussion table? Are we talking about this?
All right.
You ask any Dark Souls player if they bring up Lost Izalith as like an interest. I mean, it's cool.
Sure.
Story, and I don't disagree with this decision. It just seemed like a really weird to draw upon. So
That point,
some clarification.
are you excited for Ever Oasis in any vein because it might harken back to some Secret of Mana magic?
Yeah, lukewarm.
All right, there we go. More than we could ask for. JV Goldney,
Okay.
you're number 3.
Here we go. I'm waiting for one of these JV bombs. I've been waiting all day.
JV bombs.
Here,
It's not so bad.
here it comes. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline.
All right. Okay, buddy.
Yeah, okay, so this game came out in 2004. It's probably most remembered by the mainstream audience for being the other Source engine game that came out at the same time as Half-Life 2, and it had a lot of technical issues and this and that, and the developer that made it, they closed down shortly afterward just because it sold poorly, but I think it's one of the most replayable RPGs I've ever played. Like, I've revisited it 5 or 6 times since it's come out. I think its setting is fantastic, because most of the time, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but the RPGs I play seem to be split between, like, oh, here's some interesting variation on a fantasy world, or tropes, or sci-fi tropes, or whatever. Bloodlines takes place in, like, modern-day LA, and you play as a vampire trying to hide their identity, and you're navigating vampire politics and this and that, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
It is really fun and cool, and it's sort of an immersive sim. You can style how you play with skill trees and this and that. It tells a great story, and I just love it.
What holds it back from being one of the greatest of all time?
I mean, when it came out, probably the technical issues, but I mean, the community rallied around that and like basically fixed it. And they're still updating it with all these tweaks like years later. Wow. So I mean, for me, it's one of the greatest RPGs ever made.
Now, this is very much in the vein of like a Deus Ex or something.
Yeah, like a Deus Ex, System Shock, that sort of thing. Very immersive simi.
Joe Juba, I get you too confused with the facial reaction. Joe, what is your disgust about?
Stand here like logs and just passively wait?
No, I love it, but it's just very telling. I don't know. I just don't see the enthusiasm for it. You know, like within yourself or within the community. I mean, maybe within the like Vampire the Masquerade community. And I'm not saying that like your choice needs to be supported by like popular consensus or anything like that. Yeah. But like it's just it strikes me as strange that like that is never a game you hear brought up in terms of like, wow, that is one of like a real great standout. You know, I do hear it brought up. Mainly just from Arthur Geese and Rebel FM, but totally, I feel like it's brought up.
No, okay.
I mean, it is on our list.
It comes up, and it's on our list. I don't know. For me, it's just like when you think of like top 5 choices, that seems like a very strange top.
Well, but like we're talking about our personal.
Be careful,
choices.
Joe. They're going to turn you into the bad guy here. Hey, that's fine. That's fine.
No, I'm just saying, like, we are talking about our personal choices, and like Surreal's choice for Final Fantasy 11 is so tied, or
it was 10. It was 10.
It's tied up in personal experiences.
Forget Vampire politics. How about Lost politics?
But like, I love Vampire the Masquerade. Whenever people are asking for like recommendations for, okay, I want to play something that's interesting or that's kind of weird on sort of the strange side, you know, I pull that out, sort of like you might pull out a cult classic movie like Blood Simple or something. Like, this is where the Coen Brothers got their start.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, it's rough, but it's got the ideas that make it work, and I feel in a sort of that way about Vampire the Masquerade. Like, I can pull it out and say, hey, it's a little rough still, even with all the fixes, but it has some great ideas, and it tells a fantastic story. You should totally check it out.
I support it fully. Joe Juba, you're number 3. Chrono Trigger. Fantastic. Serial number 3.
Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door.
How interesting! I love it. Why Thousand Year Door?
I thought when I played it, it was like one of the most funny, most amusing RPGs I'd ever played. The combat system actually works. Like it's super fun, and it actually has. It's very simplified, but it has a lot of interesting nuances, and just the idea of getting all these different, power-ups based on how far you've made it in the game. All these really cool abilities, and there's just it just felt like a game that went from set piece to set piece to set piece.
Fantastic characters along the way.
This spooky, ghost land where you found a ghost that ended up being one of your party members, and you go on a wrestling thing with like
Rock Hawk.
Yeah, exactly.
Life rocks, you rock back.
Exactly. and just the idea of being active in combat with like little every
Also, it has that Mario 3 aspect where there's like an audience, in theory.
Yeah,
it was like a stage
very
performance.
Yeah, very.
So everyone's like cheering for you in every single combat,
and you have like really not super well hidden, but like side quests that you have to go out of your way, like the whole thing with Luigi and his event. Like you could read about his adventures as you were playing the game, and then you found out like, he was basically like a blowhard about that.
That's right. You get a Yoshi on your team.
Yeah.
It's a little baby Yoshi that you can
like
ride around. It
like
looks
little
just
red
absurd jumping around that town.
That's what everyone wants, is the secret adventures of Luigi.
But no, but that's the whole point. The whole point of that is that they make fun of that concept. That like he's lying and he's like, he's making it all up, and no one cares about him. Like they dunk on Luigi in that game pretty hard.
Yeah, the sense of humor for those games is exactly what you want it to be. They're very self-aware. Like we know Mario is effing absurd. Let's lean into it and have some fun with some characters. And I think Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and the other one, I think it really speaks to the power of simplicity. Like this is basically as simple as you can get in an RPG, but it's really all you need when the writing's that strong, the systems are competent, has progression that's interesting. That's it, baby.
And like one of its finale is like weirdly reminiscent of the Dark Tower when one by one all of your party members go off and like have their own like little I'm gonna take the hit this time. You go on ahead, and then it's like the next section. It just keeps happening until you fight you fight Bowser as Mario basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Strangely, my number 3 is Paper Mario for the N64.
Oh, really?
The original. Yeah, I also love Thousand Year Door a lot. It really means a lot. I played it first, but I feel like it's just a matter of I'll give the nod to a game that's a little bit simpler and the first out of the gate. Like obviously people might say Super Mario RPG is
the Dark Souls argument, of course.
Exactly. Super Mario RPG, good. I don't want to take anything away from it. I just feel like the writing in Paper Mario and the personality and the art, it's just light years beyond it in my mind. So I really, really love it.
If they ever brought that to Switch, I would play it immediately. Like it's a game I've wanted to play for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my number 3 is the original Paper Mario. Dan Jack. Number 2.
I love Yoshi so much.
All right.
I just want
buddy.
What? I'm being completely serious here.
Okay.
Yoshi is so cool. No, just Yoshi. Okay. I just came up. I felt I need to clarify my position on Yoshi before I get started with number 2.
Okay, so in Super Mario World, when Mario wants Yoshi to eat something, is he really knocking Yoshi in the back of the head?
He's totally guiding him. He's giving him
was a different time.
Yeah.
It really looks like he's popping him one.
JB, don't laugh into the mic for the love of God. Name of all that's holy. But Joe, on the Paper Mario thing real quick too, I just feel like I've always had this thought of the closer my RPG is to the Paper Mario series, the happier I'll be. I like things simple. I love South Park's Stick of Truth. I want things clean, clear. Let's go forward. Let's have some good writing and some good characters. You seem very much philosophically on the opposite end of that spectrum.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
you want an Excel spreadsheet to min-max.
I'm not opposed to those games. I like a lot of times I don't play them.
Why is that?
I don't like the simplicity of there because to me, like the narrative, like the things that draw me into an RPG, like a narrative, I do not care what Mario and Luigi and Bowser are doing.
Even if it's presented with a great sense of humor.
So I think that the games that have hit that the best are the Mario and Luigi RPG.
Really?
I like the sense of humor in those games better. So
very similar.
I don't know.
I just really like the way that Serial said, really.
I like the 2 that I've played. It's just like,
see, I'm not the only one. This is a discussion. People have different opinions.
I found them like the Mario and Luigi games more entertaining. But then when you get down to the mechanics of it, and the reason I like RPGs, or one of them, is that that solid sense of progression, the idea of a game sort of of the system sort of blossoming and getting more complex, and I just don't really get that in those.
Complex, and I feel like it gives you just enough, progression over the course of the game, to do it. Like the bet, when people sweep around that game, they do it in such a way that everyone is kind of on edge because you are going at level 1, and it is very different. They take on a very different strategy of just daredeviling through that entire game with 1 health because there's a certain mix of power ups that basically make you super powerful as long as nothing hits you when you're at 1 HP, and so they take this very different approach, and I think that speaks to they give you just enough variety to make things interesting.
Yeah, love it. Dan Tech, number 2, please.
Number 2, coming at you hot right here, please. Final Fantasy VI.
Okay. Now, you have long argued that 4 is better than 6.
I have argued that 4 is my personal favorite over 6, but 6 is a better game.
Is that this list? Is the personal?
This is a list of your personal favorite.
best RPGs, not personal favorites.
Well, now we're all confused.
I don't know. That's a weird.
All right, so 6 number 2.
Regardless of what the position on that, they're very. Yeah, 6 is a great game. Just an incredible game. You get multiple parties, character swapping, like you couldn't do it before because in a lot of cases you were not all, but some cases you were forced to use a certain party. And in 6 you had such character variety, many characters that you may not even find. You can just let people die and then they never come back.
Or Shadow.
Yeah, like Shadow. Just a great story through and through. The famous opera scene. Who could forget that, right? Like, if anybody remembers anything about that game, it's that, right? Like,
why do you think that over all things?
It was just, at the time, I think that was a time and place thing where nothing else had anything like that.
I think it's similar to like the reason people remember certain cutscenes and stuff from like Final Fantasy VII. Too.
Right.
It's like it's a move towards the cinematic that games had sort of been like gradually stepping toward, and I think Final Fantasy VI is the one that really sort of like jumped in. And in fact, like, so this is why Final Fantasy VI is basically just like my favorite game ever.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons for that is the way that it blends sort of refined traditions of its time into this just like super tight package, but also it's a good glimpse into the future of RPGs also in that sense.
There were so many really cool things you could do in that game, like even things you don't like remember, like just going to get all of Gao's moves on the belt, or doing all of like Realm's crazy painting stuff. Like there's all kinds of weird stuff that I guarantee you've forgotten about that is awesome in that game.
Just finding the perfect combination of abilities for Go-Go.
Like Go-Go himself. Go-Go and
how do you get Go-Go again?
You have to get eaten by a worm.
Of course, that's right.
I like using both of those crazy secret characters.
Yeah,
they were fun, man. They were really fun.
I'm a Gao man myself, but
what?
hey,
No.
Yeah.
No one actually
Absolutely.
used him in the real game.
That was objectively the worst character.
I know, but I like when you run it on to get White Wind with him. It's not bad.
It was just bad.
It's not good. Well, certainly not good, but he's really interesting.
Every argument to use him, it's like, if you get this one thing, he's not the worst character you could possibly get.
Okay, I'll tell you what. There's one situation in which I wanted to use Gao, and that is two. There were 2 spells that when I first played this game, I just thought were super awesome.
One of them was Ultima, right?
No. I mean spells that you don't have access to.
Okay.
So you have your normal spells, but then they're like enemy abilities, which is what Gao learns.
Yes.
Or one of the things. One of them is called Gravity Bomb, which is this really cool spell where it's like the effect was really cool for the time, where it's like a little thing comes at you and a little explosion thing happens,
and it takes a percentage of your HP.
Yeah.
As a gravity move.
So I spent a lot of time on the Vel trying to fight Io, the enemy that gives you Gravity Bomb.
Okay.
And then there's an enemy in Kefka's tower called the Retainer that gives you a spell, an ability called Shock, which is what General Leo uses during the very brief span of time that you are able to control.
You can totally unlock him, He's out there.
Shut up.
Was this a big discussion?
Yeah, it was huge.
This is like reviving General Leo, as far as I'm concerned.
It's like the white whale of gaming modes.
Is the granddaddy of like super obscure methods, tricking people into doing terrible, dumb things with their game to try to like achieve this end.
Especially because my uncle works in it and does sort of thing.
Yeah, those things.
Because we didn't have the crazy internet we had now. It was like people posting on message boards like, "I've got the secret, PM me for details."
Yeah,
and then they'd tell you like do some crazy stuff and then like swap save files and do all this weird stuff. It would never work, of course.
No, never. Right. The thing's like, okay, walk around and do 100 laps clockwise, and then 100 laps counterclockwise, and fight 10 brachiosaurs, and then you'll get this special item.
I think I tried that one.
I mean, I tried like 4 different ones. Like, I kept getting fooled. Like Lucy and Charlie Brown with the football. Every time someone put one of these down in front of me, I went and tried to kick it.
Do you think he's so cool?
He was amazing.
So bad.
He was amazing. Like the time you could play with, it was like, whoa. This guy is super badass.
Yeah. So, anyway, I spent a lot of time doing that to no avail.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of the Psych Out and having Kefka be big villain by the end and all that. What's cool about Kefka?
He's an actual villain, which that's one of the things I don't like about games today. Is like all these villains have redemption arcs. Kefka's not redeemable. He's a crazy psycho who wants to kill everything. I like that. He's a bad guy who's a bad guy. He's not some like, I had a bad childhood, or I didn't get my ice cream cone, so I decided to kill some people. It's like, no, he's a really evil guy.
If Tag has to empathize with the bad guy, he just does not like it at all.
So here's part of the reasons why, one of the reasons why I like Kefka and Final Fantasy VI in general, is that like imagine this setup in an RPG.
Yeah.
All right, you and your party members are on a floating continent. Your enemy is about to disrupt the statues that are the source of magic, and if that happens, the world will be destroyed.
Yeah.
In any other RPG, you approach that confrontation, you win, and you avert disaster. And what makes Final Fantasy VI interesting is that, like, the villain wins.
Right.
Kefka wins in that situation. He disrupts the statues, he destroys the world. He's successful, he becomes a god on Earth, and, like, the rest of the game is you, like, picking up the pieces and trying to, like, undo that disaster.
It's a great example of just the designers back then thinking, well, why not? Why not let them destroy the Earth and make a more interesting story? Let's do it. Let's rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah, and, you know, JB talks about the origins of sort of, like Fallout 2 being what exposed him to the idea of, like, the freedom of an open world. And for me, it was the second half of Final Fantasy VI.
And there's lots of stuff to explore and lots of stuff you can miss.
Yeah.
And it's really cool that way.
The whole first half of that game is like it's like Final Fantasy IV, a lot more directed narratively. Like, they tell you who you can and can't have in your party in a lot of cases, and, like, you do things in a prescribed order. But then, like, the world just totally opens up in that second half, and it's like you are Celeste, the rest of your party is probably alive out there somewhere, maybe.
Yeah.
Go find them. And, like, it gives you a few breadcrumbs to follow at the beginning, but then, like, after that, after you get Setzer in the airship, it's just up to you to go, like, oh, I wonder what's going on in this town since the world ended. Whoa, bad stuff. Okay.
All right.
And also, I also want to say, like, it did some really cool stuff with like characters being tied to very unique ability sets, like having doing Street Fighter moves to do abilities. In some cases, like everybody had their own really unique thing of things that they did, and that was really cool.
Absolutely. JB Gold, number 2.
My number 2 is System Shock 2.
Interesting.
I adore. I mean, okay, let's start. My favorite movie of all time is Alien. Like the original Alien. I just love the idea of being on a spaceship, you know, being tracked by monsters or a monster and being particularly weak and having to fight them off. And I think that even System Shock 2 sort of, you know, captured that feeling even better than Alien Isolation, because eventually Alien Isolation reaches the point where it's like, well, I don't really have the means to fight this thing, and it's just a labyrinth of death, and it's annoying. Whereas in System Shock 2, you could create the means to fight, you know, your way out of every situation as long as you were careful about supplies and such. And it's such an influential game, like especially the opening where you live out your training. You know, you can see that Mass Effect, the first Mass Effect, where you choose your background and your training.
Okay.
Sort of the skill tree stuff we have now, a lot of that comes from Deus Ex and System Shock 2, like even Far Cry and Wolfenstein, how they have skill trees that are, you know, attached, you know, very streamlined.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you like Bioshock,
and
odds are you'll like the structure of System Shock 2.
System Shock 2 straight up has an earlier, and in my opinion, a better version of that twist that's in Bioshock. Like, straight up, and Shodan is a great villain/ally. It's a very weird relationship that you have with
one of the twists in Bioshock.
Yeah, one of the twists. One of the relationship that you have with the AI who's guiding you throughout the ship, trying to supposedly help you. Like, it felt like the villains weren't one note. They had their own motives, and there were, you know, temporary alliances, this and that. It was just a fascinating game, and it's a little rough to play now, but for its influence and just the vibe, like, I mean, that's why I put it over Deus Ex, even though, you know, they have a lot of the shared ancestry and sort of design is because of its vibe, because of its horror. Like, it's so good at getting that horror vibe across.
We should point out that Prey's out this week, which is very much a love letter to System Shock 2.
So far.
Oh, you think so?
The demo, yeah.
The demo?
Oh, yeah. Within 2 minutes of the demo, or there's like halfway through the demo, I came across a 0451 key code reference, which all those games have as a reference.
Bioshock has it too.
Yeah,
you gotta do it.
And Gone Home and those sorts of things. And then seconds later, a Looking Glass Studios reference and big flashing letters. Like, come on,
well,
guys.
Look, if they love that studio, what's wrong with a little studio
sure,
homage?
but come
Get
on.
it in there.
Everyone's talking about Looking Glass all the time. I can't take one more reference.
That's a dumb complaint.
They could have done it more subtle.
No,
They
like
could have had you walking through a looking glass.
Right, it's a real
No, it's that they're like seconds apart. That was my issue.
Sure. Well, get it out of the way early.
Hammering, come on.
But to be fair, Bethesda has that policy, so we didn't have early access to System Shock, to Prey. But next week, hopefully, we'll cover it on the podcast and whatnot. We'll have more informed perception.
Booyah.
Oh, thanks, Stantec. System Shock 2. Interesting choice. I now have no idea what your number 1 is. Jojuba, number 2.
My number 2 is The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Interesting. Controversial.
Yeah, probably.
Say the least.
Salt Mine Joe over here.
Well, no, okay.
No, go for it, Joe.
So, I think I recognize that, especially at launch, there were some like technical issues with this game, particularly on PS3.
Oh
but
boy.
It became unplayable on PS3.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, like I had an instance where when I first played that game, like I came across a dragon that I beat, but then didn't beat, and it just became this bone dragon that would always just be flying around in the overworld. That like, I mean, it shouldn't happen.
It's kind of cool.
But I guess what I'd say about that is, despite all of that, I think it's a real testament to the power of that game that like I was so invested in Skyrim. I love that, and I know another complaint about it is like, well, that main story isn't great, and I'm not here to defend like every aspect of Skyrim, and certainly I think that main story doesn't stand up with some of the best main story arcs, but like I don't think Skyrim is about that main story arc. To me, it's about the smaller arcs, the arcs that you get in like the Thieves Guild, the Assassin, like the other things that you pursue in terms of the story that Bethesda presents, but then also the story that you as a player create about your own character that sort of takes shape over the quest that you choose to do, the relationships that you sort of pursue and build, and the way, just the level of ownership you get over that your character and how attached you are to your particular like play style, build, and the way that pretty much every situation in the game accommodates various different options. And the other thing I want to say,
Yes.
before everyone jumps on,
No one's jumping.
is so I played this game first on 360 and loved it. And then a couple years ago, I got a new gaming PC, and the first game I installed and played on this like new computer that could handle much more advanced things, like Crisis 1, was Skyrim. And I was like, I always hear people talk about the mods for these games. Like, what are the mods all about here with Skyrim, and like how does that really work? Because I hadn't really dove into that before. And I swear, Skyrim goes from a great game to just one of the best games.
Gameplay adjustments?
Any number of things.
So give us what you used.
So the things that I prefer. So you can go in there and just like, if it looks too outdated, there are lots of great mods out there that sort of like improve bring the visuals a little closer to modern. But I prefer the sort of smaller tweaks. I guess some people would call them cheats, but for me, they're a way to eliminate the things that just sort of like, I don't know, the things that were bothering me a little bit about Skyrim. For instance, I hate lockpicking minigames. I think we've talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah. Like, at least in the game Flipper 2, yeah.
Like, across the board, you will never show me a lockpicking minigame that is actively fun.
What if the block-picking minigame is not fastest?
Okay, let's table that for
Here's Suriel out. Okay.
just so you have to play it through Final Fantasy VI,
Which is the worst door. Who installed this?
But okay, so I would like that. But I guess what I'm getting at is like I feel like lockpicking in games is always just sort of like at best a thing you have to suffer through to get to something else you want to do, and at worst actively terrible. Point being is that like I hate it so much that there's a mod that just lets you be like, hey, this just shows you exactly what you need to do to like open every door.
Great. Done.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Hey, this game really bugs me with like its weight limit. I hate the encumbrance limit. Oh, here's a ring you can wear that gets rid of your encumbrance limit completely. Oh, great, except I can only wear 2 rings. Oh, here's a mod that lets you wear 10 rings. Awesome.
So you're softly breaking it.
Well, yeah, but I guess more than just like cheating, I guess what I think of it is like shaping it to be the experience I want it to be. And the community is so like prolific in the stuff that they create for it that pretty much any game that you like, however you want to shape Skyrim, you can do it, and it can just sort of be the game you want it to be, and I love it.
So you loved it a lot more when you went back to it, and just saw the crazy potential it had now.
Yeah.
Any objections or compliments to Skyrim in the room?
I'm pretty down on Skyrim a lot, but I don't disagree with anything Joe said here necessarily. I think the mod scene for it is kind of impressive just to behold. I know, there are mods available for most PC games out there, but Skyrim's is a whole different league. It's the first one I saw that reminded me of like Half-Life's mods back in the day, because the mod scene for that was also crazy.
Yeah.
I remember spending hours upon hours, like just downloading on dial-up those mods. There was just thousands of them, and Skyrim's the first one I've seen that has such a built-in community around it, even more than Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 with mods.
Oh, and other mods to talk about are like
total conversions,
like extra quests and new companions, and like there's a bunch of just like content related things beyond just like I don't like lockpicking.
Yeah, we're talking like 30-hour
You can play
total
as
conversions.
a regular person. Like, you don't have to be the main hero. You can just play as any random villager.
What?
Yeah, like they're just out there and crazy.
Yeah, you can. If you want to start as this random shopkeeper, you can just play the game and start
Just live your entire life just staring at the same little shop window. I hope Khajiit comes around.
But it's cool that exists.
Yeah,
like, and this game exists for it. But yeah, it's nowhere near like my favorite RPGs of all time. But I guess I can appreciate it. Like I can appreciate how flexible and moldable it is. But like the combat, outside of the shouting stuff, which is kind of cool. Like it never gets all shouting like a troll up a mountain. It's like a mountain peak.
You would put Skyrim with mods as your number 2.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you qualify. I guess to me, it's weird to like that's what this game is now.
Yeah.
Like, if you play Skyrim, that's what that game can be.
Right.
So like I don't want to just restrict to like this list only applies to games like as they existed as Bethesda put it out on release date or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
So
Dantek is the PC man in the room.
Yes.
Even though JB apparently has played a lot of PC games. What is your favorite Elder Scrolls?
My favorite Elder Scrolls is Skyrim.
Oh, is that
I've
right?
played a lot of it. Since you dragged me into this, I wouldn't put it anywhere near the top 5. But it is a great game. I did all the quests, all the guilds and stuff in that game, except the mage one. I didn't finish that one. But the rest of my all did. I had a great time doing it. Loved the Dark Brotherhood. Loved working up all that stuff. It was fun.
JB, I take back the bad stuff I said about Vampire the Masquerade.
Hey, Serial, number 2.
My number 2 is The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Interesting.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
I think it is. Right now, I think it is the gold standard of RPGs in terms of narrative design, and all pretty much everything except combat. Like the combat is, I think people make too much of how, like I think it's serviceable in that like it's a thing you can do to progress through the plot, right? I don't want to defend it and say it's great or anything, but I didn't dislike it. I didn't like hate every moment of playing it, like a lot of people do. A lot of people do.
Yeah.
Like there are people who actively dislike the combat in the game, and I don't know.
The combat in that game is really good, right? It's
like,
got the A.
Yeah, like it's a game I played on the hardest difficulty and had not really much of a problem playing through it. But like in terms of here is a world you can explore full of little pockets of stories that are available. There are very few side quests where I didn't complete it and say, man, that was a really cool thing. And I think a lot of people point to the Bloody Baron as sort of like the best quest in that series. But there are quests that match that in terms of how crazy they get in terms of what the types of concepts they explore, and just later on, like it is a game that makes use of its length because the entire game you're searching for Ciri, like basically your adoptive daughter is Geralt, and you don't find her until like 40, 60 hours in, depending on how much time you do. And it's just the moment he walks in and like sees her for the first time, and there is just this weight to it of just like, finally, I found you. Like, I am so tired, and it takes place on. Yeah. And there are moments of like that just throw a wrench in the tone. Like a lot of times in these really interesting ways. Like there's one right before you meet Ciri, which is supposed to be this really weighty tone. There's a part of it where you're trying to find these 3 guys to help you get to Ciri faster, basically. And one of them, I don't remember the exact details, but he just ends up walking off a cliff and dying, like almost immediately. Storytelling, right? But it's like it is a game that like consistently tells you like the world is not the way as you expected. Like every side quest has a twist that is just like it twists all these fantasy concepts on their head, and like has a really, but like put together, it has a really consistent tone, and it imparts an important, like a great story that is, Geralt is just this guy who is trying to kill monsters. And
it is amazing how self-contained those stories feel. I mean, I spent hundreds of hours in that game. I haven't even touched like whatever the main or the big expansion that's out now.
Those expansions are like both like really fantastic.
Oh yeah, the one with the wedding. That's incredible. Just because it's so funny.
Yeah, and there's in those DLCs there's quests that range from putting together a heist, like by finding all these different agents of like different people, and one of them like again like has this really funny like ending that
Walks on the cliff.
sort of. And to everything from like in the second DLC, there's a quest where you're just walking around like and you're looking for this inheritance that you're supposed to have because you died. Like you legally died, and you're looking for this inheritance, and you're basically spending the entire quest like, go get form 50C3, go upstairs, and like it's just this really fun. And every time you walk past, there's this cat who's just kind of like looking at you as you're walking by, like with the biggest, Dantac condescension face of just, like, what are you doing? And like at the end, you don't even get that much gold. It's just like I can't believe I just worked through all that just to find this movie.
I like it.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, I think it's also worth pointing out how strangely great Geralt is as a character. Like, he's like your uncle who shows up at the holidays and is grumpy the entire time wearing a sweater. Like, just a really holiday sweater. He's just fantastic, but also lovable. Like,
good job.
No, it's not good. Like, he just sounds grumpy, but, he has his moments, especially with Ciri and wherever he's like, okay, yeah. Where he shows, like, okay, he's kind of emotional and very kind. He's an interesting protagonist.
I like that you call it the gold standard, Cyril. Do we think this generation, any open world RPG, can top The Witcher as the gold standard of open world RPGs?
I mean, I think a lot of people who are in a position, I think like Bethesda, the Fallout came out that year, but I think like their next game is probably going to be the ones like, all right, guys, show up.
All right, guys, try this time.
Move forward, move this genre forward, and I think The Witcher 3 sort of does that of saying like, this is, if you want to make an RPG of this size, this is the thing you have to aim for.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what I want to say about The Witcher 3, real quick. Okay. It's not in my top 5. It's not my number 1. Sure. Okay. And the reason for that, like I played it and I liked it, but I think what it does super well is like those side quests that Cyril is talking about, and like some main quests. Like some of those quest designs are really good, and I think because that's an area that so many games get so bad, or like do so poorly, I think it really stands out and does well in that sense. But like a couple other things for me, what holds it back is the idea of like I don't think it gets that progression super well. The way that the like runes and those, like, I was never excited to invest ability points in The Witcher 3. Because you get like incremental percentage bonuses to things and stuff. It's rare that you're like, oh wow, I'm getting this really cool thing. And the other thing is, people are always talking about how like important or like how great the choice elements are in Witcher. And there are times when I agree with that. Like I like the sort of playing in a moral gray space sort of thing. But there are other times when it feels like part of the fun of making a choice in an RPG is sort of looking ahead and like shaping the consequence you want, right? So in morally gray situations, you're sort of like, okay, well, if I do this bad thing's going to happen, or if I do this bad thing's going to happen. But you kind of know what you're choosing between. And there are multiple points in Witcher 3 where I felt screwed over because like I thought I was choosing something, and instead it just ended up like I was just sort of randomly choosing. It doesn't feel like a choice when like,
and instead they hang the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Or I guess that ghost is gonna like kill someone now. Like, okay.
I don't know, it just feels like it speaks to that game's like thing of constantly twisting everything you expect of like, okay, this monster's a bad guy, but also he's kind of like, doing this thing that's sort of helping. So it's like it always deals in like these muddy grays and the idea of like, I want to do this, but it like the whole point is like things don't always turn out the way you want them to, even in the context of like a thing where you are making a defined choice of how you want the story to play out.
I will say, I think it is kind of bullshit that there is one choice near the ending that you made that's inexplicable that completely determines the ending, and it has nothing to do with morality or anything. It's just, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
You don't understand the choices you're making.
Like, that was just, and like, I don't think enough reviews like touched on that or whatever. Like, there's been enough criticism about that, but on the whole, I feel like The Witcher, especially Witcher 2 and 3, get choices right, or at least interesting.
Yeah, Dan, you have something to say for me?
Yeah, one real quick thing. Even though I took that persnickety jab at the combat, I want to say I do think it's an excellent game.
Persnickety jab.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Oh, great choice, Cyril. You're a hero. My number 2, just to get on here somewhere, Pokemon Gold and Silver.
That was the game that was fighting with Final Fantasy X.
Is that right? Yes. Your number 5?
You want a Happy Meal or something to go with your number 2 pick?
Whoa! Everybody has a pacifier. I don't even talk. I'll just suck a pacifier into this mic.
No, I will totally back you. I think it stands.
Dan, I thought Game Informer had like an age threshold for hiring that we needed to hit.
Jeez, Martha, this is our personal list. This is the RPGs we got the most enjoyment of.
That's for you. good.
Not Mr. Science in the corner.
I go for like a little cheeseburger and a couple of toys.
Pokemon Red and Blue, all the credit in the world to go back on the previous point for getting the ball rolling with great gameplay. Gold and Silver, I feel like, is where it peaked. Those games are so big. And after you finish this huge quest, then the twist of, oh, now you're going back to Kanto, the region from Red and Blue, doing all those gyms again, except it's in the future. You see how things have changed. It's just like a Final Fantasy VI going to the destroyed world.
Actually, yeah.
It's amazing
Yeah,
because they packed all that on a Game Boy
And,
cartridge.
like, the fact that your final opponent is the person playing the first game. Like,
Yes.
few games had done that up until.
And they're brutally hard.
Yeah,
They just mop the
he is
floor
a
with you.
rough, like, son of a. He will take you down if you don't.
Relax. Oh, he's gone. He's dead now.
Wow.
He's dead.
You
murdered it. No, absolutely. And I feel like the stuff that they add, like day-night system, you can hold items. They really talk a lot about berries in this game. Holy Lord, do they focus on berries. Breeding is huge. Walking around with the eggs, waiting for that to hatch. Always a great time.
Whoa.
Yeah, brother.
Whoa.
Then also,
Jamie's real into hatching.
another thing I absolutely loved about the game is the addition of having a phone. So you have every trainer's phone number, and then you can call them up and battle them again, which is so great to, like, repopulate the map again with fights instead of just like, oh, I fought you once, okay, moving on. But, like, having, like, these rematches over and over again if you want to just keep calling up this weirdo on 64. Absolutely.
And man, when we were making a cell phone list, why didn't you say that one?
Oh, yeah, sorry, JB, I just didn't really care about that one.
Damn it.
I like that they also. At the time, I found it kind of annoying, but in retrospect, I think it's really cool that they made the hunt for the legendary Pokemon an actual like hunt. Like you
They
may
are
not.
flying all over the place.
Yeah, they are hard to get.
Yes, absolutely. And I was so excited for this game, and I don't support ROMs, but like I was so looking forward to this game. I was waiting for the Japanese version that was released. So I tried playing it 100% Japanese, and then like a week later, be like, okay, this is 20% English. This version is 35% English. And like following these fan translations before the game came out was so much fun. And so I just played the beginning of that game over and over and over again. And every time it had different names for the Pokemon because they weren't localized yet. Mm-hmm. It's such a fun, mysterious time where it's like, okay, we know Ho-Oh, I guess a little bit. Yeah. We know that thing's coming up. Donphan, the dumb elephant thing, was in the first Pokemon movie, so we know that. Togepi was in the cartoons, we know that. But the rest, maybe if you're super glued in, you understood. But the rest was just this mystery of like, they're adding 100 more. It could be anything. I heard there's a blue Pikachu. I don't know what the hell's happening. Pokemon Gold and Silver, everybody.
So you know, I took that. The dig wasn't at Pokemon. I'm actually a big Pokemon fan, as you know. But
Game Club.
It seems totally weird as a number 2 to me, and that's why I did what I did.
But Dan, I'd like to emphasize something. I don't think you got this message. This is our personal top, not what we see as the top 5 standard of all time. I think there's a distinction there.
I did it to make fun of you.
No, I got that. Thank you. Dan,
I'm a big Pokemon fan. Anyway, the number one, we've discussed it to death already. Should come as no surprise, given the other ones. I bet everyone can figure it out based on just down the line. It makes sense. Chrono Trigger is my number 1.
Interesting. I don't think I've ever heard you express Chrono Trigger love over Final Fantasy IV. I just use Final Fantasy IV or nothing, baby.
Because I probably talk about Final Fantasy 1 because nobody appreciates Final Fantasy 4.
I like it.
I mean, not in the same way. Everybody loves Chrono Trigger, right? I could go out on the street and find somebody who loves Chrono Trigger.
Absolutely.
Final Fantasy 4 and be like, no, what are you talking about? Like, it's this really cool turn-based game, guys.
It's Zeromus.
So one down note out of like 40 plus hours.
Pretty important note.
He's still a good final boss. You still have everyone coming together to beat him spiritually. It's very cool.
All right, Chrono Trigger number 1.
Chrono Trigger number 1. We talked about it. It's awesome. It's killer. Rocks.
JV, Walding.
Oh, Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game of all time, so it's my favorite RPG.
Interesting you reference Chrono Trigger as being influential in Mass Effect 2. What did you mean by that?
Just the branching stuff. Like I've read a couple of interviews where people have said that. So.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Why Mass Effect 2? I think we've talked about it a fair amount on the podcast, but you just love the storytelling in that one?
I think it is structured in a super smart way with the loyalty missions basically being interactive television show episodes.
Yeah.
From like your favorite sci-fi series. And I love most of the crew except Jacob. Good lord.
But Jacob's loyalty mission, I think, is
Jacob's loyalty mission is one of the best.
Yeah.
But as a character, he's like, dude.
That loyalty mission would be so awesome if you actually cared about the person it was happening.
Yeah, I like Jacob's dad more than I like him, which is kind of saying something.
Right?
But I feel like it has, a perfect pacing, like you're always being propelled forward. I love how they stream. I know this is a big sticking point for a lot of people, maybe Joe. I don't know, I think we might have talked about this, but I love how they streamlined, like, the skill tree stuff, how it's very sort of breezy, and then it's super easy to manage your squad mate skill trees as well. I love the majority of the missions. I love all the hub worlds. Like, Omega is still, like, the coolest place.
Great soundtrack.
Yeah, great soundtrack.
Great
and the suicide mission, that's like pinnacle video games for me. It's just the suicide mission and all the branching stuff there, and all of your choices coming into play, and I love that game.
If you want a good recap of why Mass Effect 2 is great, just go back and look at the Mass Effect 2 launch trailer. Amazing trailer, even though they show Tali dying in the end suicide mission in that launch trailer. It's kind of how EA approved that, but whatever. But that's just, it's so emotional. Go back and watch it.
And the best opening in a game ever,
Yeah.
I'd argue. Just killing off Shepard was bold as hell.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking of the Cerberus training facility. I'm like, that's not that.
No,
That whole.
just the Normandy just getting taken out.
And then walking through it where it's just silent.
Oh yeah, it's haunting. Yeah. But yeah, that's my number one pick.
Love it. Joe Juba, number one.
We've talked about it. Final Fantasy VI, like I said, pretty much my favorite game ever. Don't argue with it. And one of the things about not to talk about the
Not
game.
to argue against myself.
No. Not to dig further into it, but the more I was thinking about this, is I don't think any game, no RPG is ever going to unseat Final Fantasy VI for me.
Right.
Because Joe Juba will never love anything as much as 13-year-old Joe Juba loved Final Fantasy.
I'm sorry to Mrs. Juba.
No, I mean it's just like that time and place and enthusiasm is just so cemented at this point. It's just become sort of encased in amber, and it's just never gonna go anywhere.
But absolutely. Serial, number one.
Persona 3.
Wow, that is not what I thought it was going to say.
Persona 3. Please explain.
As I previously said, if someone were to say, I want to play this Persona series, which one should I play? I would say, go play 5. But I think Persona 3 is a game that perfectly captivates the feeling of being in high school in almost every way.
Did you play when you were in high school?
No, I think I was in my first year of college, actually.
Okay.
But this was, I know people will say, well, it's because of the first one you played, but I actually played Persona 4 first, and then went back and played 3, and liked it even better.
I never hear much love for 3.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, 3's great.
I just hear so much for 4. I never heard this argument.
4 is, I think, sort of the breakout entry, because I think that's when everyone found out, about Persona, more or less. I think
With Golden specifically.
Yeah, I think, Persona 3 is sort of like the Demon Souls of the series, where it's the people who play it acknowledge that it's very good, but it doesn't have this wider tone. But the thing I like about Persona 3 is that it starts off as this, just the basic premise of, here's an RPG that takes place in the real world, and it has, Persona obviously was around before then, but just the idea of, taking it to the next level. And it's it has this really strong opening scene where it looks like someone is going to kill themselves with a gun, and it turns out, it's a magic evoker thing, and they're already fighting sort of shadows there, and it has this really dark tone through the entire thing, and it gets even darker as you go in. Your first few teammates are it's your schoolmates living at the dorm with you, but as you branch out, you find someone who, is sort of like a vagrant. He's not really in the school system. He basically drops out of school, and you find a grade schooler who is, super cool and wants to hang out with the older kids. Just something that I can relate to.
Absolutely.
You eventually recruit a dog to fight with you.
Don't forget the best character. The robot.
The robot.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah.
You get two. You get an android and then a second android in the expansion. And it's all these crazy kooky partners, and I in subsequent games, one of my biggest criticisms has always been they're just kind of reiterating on these characters again. So Ryuji's cool, but he's no Junpei. So, or Makoto's cool, but she's an archetype of Mitsuru in a way. They kind of, although I think Makoto, I might like Makoto better than Mitsuru, but whatever.
Yeah.
Those archetypes started in that game, and just the final few hours of that game, I think, are incredible in the idea of everyone's sort of already decided that they've lost, and so the world is going to end. So you spend day after day just dreading the end of the world before your final fight with basically death.
It's very Majora's Mask. Yeah.
So when I was talking before about Persona 5 and the sort of various elements of each game that people stack up against each other, I think Persona 3 is held up as generally just sort of the best main story arc.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Comparing 3, 4, and 5, that is definitely the area where 3 stands above the competition.
Yeah,
it's the core arc.
Yeah, 3 has this existential thread that's just at the heart of it, and it's unrelentingly dark. Like Serial says, all the way up until the end. And then you can still make an argument that it's pretty dark.
It's even worse from there. You can make the art people like I like GA more than a lot of the characters in 3. I like Kanji a lot more than a lot of characters in 3. But like the way they felt like all these characters are banding together in a way that like Persona's 4 always felt like here's this collection of like wacky characters that are coming together like to solve a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like they were a little bit more subtle, a little bit more grounded. And one thing that I will point out specifically is that I know people don't like the Ryuji character, they don't like the Yusuke character. I feel like Junpei has a redemptive arc that makes him feel like, okay, this guy's not just a total jerk because he is redemptive. He finds someone he loves, and like they end up like he is redeemed as a person through his experiences with that other person. So
yeah, we sort of fell off of this trend, but we were going to talk about the best way to play these.
That's what I was just going to ask.
Right. And what's interesting about Persona 3 is that there's sort of a debate about whether or not you're playing Persona 3 Portable or whether you're playing Persona 3 Fest.
Yeah, I would say like Persona 3 Fest is probably you are trading practicality for experience.
Is that the PS2 one? What is Fest?
Yeah, Fest is like it's the game, and then it has an expansion pack called Fest. That it's sort of like an abbreviated arc. I don't think it's great. I think it's okay. The story in it is good, but there's just a lot of grinding you have to do to get through these small story moments. Whereas Persona 3 Portable lets you play as a girl, but all the menus are like instead of walking around the school, you're sort of just everything is a static screen. Every hallway is a static screen, and you just like hover a cursor to a character and then talk to them. So all the stories are intact. It's just you don't get the sort of immersive feel of the characters,
and you also don't get the cutscenes.
Yeah,
which like Surya was talking about, the sort of like how haunting it is to see these characters like hold guns to their heads that like they summon monsters, but they're still real. That's really creepy imagery. That
if you have a way to play Fest, I would play Fest. But like if you're just looking, if you want to play this, Portable is a little more practical because if you have a Vita, you can play Portable.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I'm trying to think of like what's unifying a lot of our picks. It seems like there's a theme of like going outside the box a little bit, being different, and also going dark. Having some dark elements, going outside the box seems to be this overall nebulous information.
I think those tie into each other though, because like I don't think it's specifically, hey, I love when things are dark, so much as you know, like we were saying before, this genre as a whole has so many just like, hey, ragtag group saving the world.
Yeah.
So anything that kind of deviates, goes out of the box, sometimes that means getting a little dark.
It's about setting the stakes too.
Yeah.
Like you have to have like, oh, I'm saving a neighborhood versus the world. It's about making it work, making it getting players invested. Like, oh, all these characters might die. That's
right. Yeah. Shout out to Earthbound, which I don't think is in everybody's list. Anyways, mine, it goes back to Dan's point about the first one you played, Final Fantasy VII. We've talked about it on this podcast for, close to 6 hours with the first Game Club, which I think might still be our best Game Club. I really love that one. I think it was a lot of fun. Playing it again, funnier than I remember, messier than I remember. Just, it feels so cobbled together and strange. Just weird pre-rendered sections thrown in there. It gives you a surprising amount of control during some pre-rendered sections where it's like pre-rendered background, like you're falling off the rail in Mount Coral, but you can still like swerve around and pick up items. Just so many weird little one-offs that I really appreciate with that game. I understand by the second disc, I think a lot of things start to fall apart. I still love, and the big standout from that Game Club was just how shattered Cloud becomes in that second disc. And I forgot how interesting it is just having this weird vacancy of power for the main protagonist of the game. And you eventually see Cloud again, and he said, wheelchair, can't even speak. It is maybe a little bit dark again. But also, since the Game Club, something that really stood out to me is there is a podcast called Dev Game Club, strangely enough, and it's with Tim Longo, who worked on the Tomb Raider reboot. He's at LucasArts back in the day, director of Halo 5 most recently. But it's him and a programmer from Bethesda, formerly Bethesda, and they played through Final Fantasy 9, and both of them just could not wrap their minds around what was happening with Final Fantasy 9. I feel like 7's even more so in this vein, where there's like, how many engines are running? Like, every part of this game feels so handcrafted and customized. Like, just stick to a pattern and grind it out, game developers. And looking back at 7, it just seems very much in that vein where, according to the oral history that Polygon posted a little while ago, there's 5 different game engines within Final Fantasy VII, and that really speaks to the messiness, but also a lot of the charm of it, where it is just this Frankenstein of good bits that culminates in something quirky and fun, but also dark. I love that game the same way Joe loves 6. Final Fantasy 7, everybody, check it out if you haven't heard of it.
You mentioned 9 too. That stands out as an example that I think that is probably the most cited game that I've seen of like how is Final Fantasy 9 not on their
It is
top
surprising.
100
Yeah.
list? And like I think that is a great example of like, man, if we could have expanded the list, it would have been 101. That would have been nice.
Yeah, it's tough because you start to break down Final Fantasy. It's like, oh god, which ones aren't going to make it?
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I love 9. It's really tough not to put more Final Fantasies on my top 5 list. It's like, gosh, probably like move other things. Anyways, good job, everybody. We did it. We did it.
We didn't murder each other. It's great.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it? You want to move on to some great community emails?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Breathe good. Yep. All right. And welcome testing. Okay.
Hello.
No more of this joke. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show, everybody. We got some great emails from the community. We're going to read them all off, and then we're going to choose our absolute favorite that someone sent to the podcast, GameInformer.com, and we're going to ship them out something really nice. So again, if you have feedback, questions, comments, things you want us to talk about, literally any email you could send in that you think would make this show better, send it into podcast@GameInformer.com. Right, Suriel?
Absolutely.
I don't like the idea of picking one favorite. Can we pick 5 favorites and then go down the line?
Yeah.
Spend an hour and
I
a half.
think after we're done with the email, we need to have a ranking.
That's really good. I'm choosing all the emails. I'm Joe. Real quick, we lost JV Gwaltney. We picked up a Ben Reeves.
I think we won on the exchange.
Ben Reeves, I've been meaning to ask you, what are your top 5 RPGs?
Pan's Dragon.
Yeah, okay. Fantastic.
I like this guy. Just comes in, boom, done.
Reeves with Xenogears have been on your list?
No.
Okay. I like that game, though. I do, too. Anyways, Ethan, Waldo, Zach, Joshua, they all emailed in to talk about alternate names to Walking Sim based on the conversation last week.
Oh, yeah.
Real quick, their suggestions are, quote-unquote, narrative-driven. Oh, I'm sorry. So, Ethan thinks it should fall in the immersive sim category. Yeah, that gets a little bit murky, but all right.
That's pretty much because then you're calling it a sim.
Actually, Waldo says first-person adventure. Zach says passive story game. Joshua says interactive storytelling game. It's still up in the air. Thank you for
First-person adventures would be the one that I would go with out of those.
All right, well, there we go.
They're not all
Final
first person, are they?
Great question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, imagine if, so it's not like this, but if Firewatch was in third person. Speaking of you've seen that video of like what the
Yes.
Firewatch guy's character model looks like? It's
enormous
horrifying. Yeah. But I mean, like, you could have a game like Gone Home, Firewatch, Edith Finch in third person and still have it be that, like,
Manowar, basically.
So, like, Manowar is very close to that.
yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm going to go with what I said, which is storytelling game.
Absolutely. Hazal Muhammad says, "Hey, GI crew, after the recent glut of great games in the past few months, I started thinking about where these games will eventually lie in the overall lexicon of gaming classics. I can see Breath of the Wild eventually getting the Twilight Princess treatment in a few years. Super 4K Breath of the Wild. But games like Nier Automata are a little bit more hazy. Automata feels like a genre classic in the making, well received when released, but remembered by only a handful of fans. So my question to you all is the following. What are some games that you can think of that should have gotten more praise, but ultimately got pushed to the wayside for a Zelda or a Metal Gear, ultimately, and why were they forgotten in the first place?" Great point about Nier Automata. I was fully expecting JP to put that on his list at some point. I just assume he's a big fan of the game, which I just started, Joe.
Yeah.
I have not gotten to one ending yet, but I think I'm getting real close.
You got to play it like 5 times or something.
That's the hook.
That's a little misleading. It's a very interesting game. I'm excited to hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have your thoughts changed on it at all since you played it? Do you think back on it ever?
I do. I mean, like, my thoughts haven't. The problem with reviewing a game like Nier Automata is like there's a score, and then people remember the score, and
Yes.
that means, and like, really, my thoughts on Nier Automata, like, that game is super interesting and does a lot of like clever stuff well, but then it does some other stuff not well that like held it back for me. Right. But ultimately, I think back on Nier Automata fondly.
There we go. It's not enough long games yet this year, so maybe I'll dive into that soon.
Wait, can I finally sink my teeth into something? My first thought for this one, that games have gotten overlooked, I just feel like Night in the Woods deserves a little bit more love, especially compared to something like Oxenfree, which came out like last year, 2 years ago, which hits a lot of the same notes. I feel like Night in the Woods beats it on every front, and the fact that I don't think it is getting as much word of mouth as Oxenfree has, is just blasphemous in my mind.
Yeah, I actually just finished Night in the Woods.
Oh, great.
Because I've been playing all of these huge RPGs, and like everything on my backlog was huge RPG, and I was like, I need to do something like a little shorter, a little different, and I really like that game.
What do you think, without spoiling anything? What do you think about like the direction it went, the tone of the ending, stuff like that?
I was a fan of the ending of that game.
Okay, all right, that's all I need to hear.
I liked it too a lot. You were not?
No, I don't know. I'm still only halfway through. I'm going to dive back in.
I mean,
I expected something different from that game when I started it.
He was expecting puzzles.
That's right.
Thank God they don't have puzzles.
Oh yeah, no.
The few puzzles they do are kind of like not great.
I mean, we talk about what a storytelling game. I mean, like this would fall in a similar category as those other games we were talking about, even though it's not first person.
Isn't that just what Serial said? You said,
Was it?
yeah.
What?
Yeah, you said Night in the Woods, and I believe you said I'll go with what I said.
Are you trolling him right now?
Oh. That's all right.
I was thinking just in terms of whatever.
It's all right. When it comes to games getting stepped on, I thought the first game that popped in my mind, even though I never started this game, I'm curious what you think of it in retrospect, Joe, was Assassin's Creed Rogue. Did that game get its due? Didn't it come out the same day as Unity? What a weird world.
Yeah, Rogue really got overshadowed by Unity because Unity was their big next gen game. I think that's really what they wanted to push. It was a lot more different using new tech, new engine.
They kind of did it to themselves, honestly.
Still, glad it is true. I don't think you missed much with Rogue. Like it's more Black Flag, which I know sounds really good to people. Except like one of my big complaints about Black Flag was the story, and I think Rogue has an even worse story. And it also sort of poisoned some things that were good about previous Assassin's Creed games. Yeah, like that's not the way.
Well, what game got overlooked?
I thought Soma kind of.
Great choice.
Came in, there was like, this is pretty. Everyone's like, this is pretty cool, and then no one talked about it ever again. Even though like it was one of my favorite games from that year. It was just, I really liked almost everything that game did as a first-person adventure game. Like, just the ways it messed with that, that with the premise of cognition and AI. It's like I thought that it was a incredibly smart game, and it was a game that felt like a very worthy successor to Amnesia. We're putting our own new spin on horror, and then everybody will have to catch up first. I don't think it had the impact that Amnesia has, which is weird because I definitely liked everything that game did.
Yeah,
one of the games I always think of in terms of like games coming out when another game comes out is Beyond Good and Evil, which I know has developed a cult following, but it came out at the same time as Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, and it's just like both of those games were published by Ubisoft, and so you're like, if anybody's gonna they can look at their own release calendar and be like, oh, we got 2 games coming out the same day, we should do that. I think it was also like really close to like one of the Ratchet and Clanks back when Ratchet and Clank was like super hot brand, so it's just kind of like really crowded window, and I think Beyond Good and Evil didn't get it's definitely amassed, again, in cult following sense, but I think at the time it did not sell well because of that.
Yeah, the Titanfall 2 generations ago. That's true. One that stands out for me, unrelated, is Rayman Origins came out the same day as Assassin's Creed Revelations. That's from what company would it sell putting 2 games out?
I don't know.
That seems like a very bad idea.
I was just looking up trying to find one game that stands out for me on this front is Valkyria Chronicles on PS3.
There we go.
Which came out just. I was trying to find the list of games, but I remember it's ridiculous. It came out at the same time as like Fallout 3, and I think there was a brand new Gears of War game and Rock Band or something that was big at the time. Like it just got in that time frame, just got totally overshadowed, and that is a fantastic game.
Yeah, wasn't there? It's on Steam now.
Yeah. And there's a remastered version on PS4, so
it's all over the place.
Play it.
Can't throw a rock without hitting a version of Valkyria Chronicles. Let's see. Jake from Maine says, hello, Ben and GI crew. I was excited to see God of War as the replay choice this past weekend. Thank you for watching. The costumes made replaying the first game interesting by having perks, like earning extra experience, or my favorite, the Dairy Bastards Infinite Magic.
Yeah.
Is that familiar to... What is that?
It's like Kratos in a big cow suit, and instead of blades, he has like milk jugs.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's crazy.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It says, however, this came to bite me in the ass during the last boss fight. The costume comes with a cost that your strength is cut in half. This wouldn't be an issue if Ares didn't take away your magic and force you into a sword fight. This made the fight intense but satisfying when I finally won. Also, I'd imagine just visually very funny looking.
Yeah.
My question is, are there any games that had a New Game Plus mode with features or moments that improve the game, like the Joker laughing in the beginning of Arkham Knight? Or did a New Game Plus run through ever go poorly for you? I don't know the Joker laughing when you Arkham Knight.
I don't know what that is either.
Has the game ever improved drastically or gotten much worse on the New Game Plus? I think is the overall question here.
I have a much worse example.
All right.
So on Mass Effect 2, I make it a point to go and I will do an insanity playthrough of Mass Effect games after playing once, right? Mass Effect 2 has a weird thing where the way the enemies are basically leveled relative to you is like, your level. Except when you start that game over, there are no allowances for the fact that even though, let's say you're at level 50, and the enemies are at level 50, there's no allowances for the fact that you don't have any of the sort of upgrades that you get through through other progression means through the story. So the beginning of a New Game Plus hard playthrough on Mass Effect 2 is just practically unplayable because it's
really?
Yeah, if you want to do an insanity playthrough of Mass Effect 2, you should just start a brand new game, and it is way smoother.
Oh, weird.
So I thought that was interesting, and I have a good story too. But we can get something else.
I think my immediate example is Resident Evil 5, which is how we're playing. That game is almost built around the idea of playing it multiple times.
Well, 4 as well, don't you think?
Yeah. The thing, with 5 is specifically you go back and play individual chapters, and so you can go back and pick up whatever other collectibles you want and go back to certain chapters and farm them. But one moment I think is really cool is that when you play it on the hardest difficulty, the first chainsaw fight, after you kill them and you get the key and you run towards the door, and then he gets back up and you have to fight him again.
Oh, that's awesome!
On a higher difficulty, I thought that was that was one where I was like, okay, this game is about something else than Resident Evil 4.
I'm amazed by how popular New Game Plus is. Even in the Hellblade interview coming up later, one of the most popular questions we got was, "What's the New Game Plus options for Hellblade?" It's amazing. I understand people like it. I didn't know that it was top priority.
It's a weird question for that kind of a game.
Yeah,
too, yeah.
I don't think they're fully aware of what type of game it is, to be honest with you. But Dan,
I don't have any examples of really negative or really positive, but I think that's weird how you'd be surprised that people want New Game Plus. It's it adds a lot of longevity to the
I understand that it's a popular thing. I just didn't expect it to be this overwhelmingly popular.
It's not something that makes every game ever better. A new playthrough of New Game Plus doesn't really apply to Edith Finch, for example. It's not going to.
Although they're kind of making it a lot harder.
Hey Reeves, because you're out of town, did you finish Andromeda?
No, I never did.
How does it feel to
I
not
was
finish
so
that game?
happy to not have to play.
Come on, we had a great chat. To
I
close
did
it out.
listen to your chat.
Big zing right there.
Although I was you were oh, Ben Reeves babied out. I was like, okay, I guess I'll never take a vacation ever again.
Oh, you have to be punished for your vacation.
Whatever. Now you're the quitter.
Wait, are you
You're the quitter.
You just listen to the conversation instead of beating the game? Are you ever going to beat the game?
Maybe.
You watched it on
I
YouTube.
totally lost all enthusiasm.
He's not going to.
I spent
That's wild.
15 hours on it. Just I think people who play that game and really love it are just kidding themselves. They're
Ooh,
really? Boom.
Hey, Joe, what's going on?
Their enthusiasm for the series is overriding something else in their brain.
interesting.
Anyway, but games are fun. New Game Plus. Wow.
I want to butt in with just a particularly awesome New Game Plus moment, which was if you played Dragon's Dogma.
Ooh, yes.
So this is a game where the ending gets super crazy, and you realize that there's this cyclical thing, and whoever beat the last god is the new god, basically, and stuff like that. So you go through on New Game Plus, and you get to the last boss, expecting it to be the last boss that you fought the first time, and it's you. It is your character from your first playthrough becomes the last boss, and it's enforcing the idea of the cycle starting anew. That was a fantastic moment.
And finally, without spoiling too much, I'll just say Undertale.
Oh, interesting.
There we go.
Okay.
Good
That's
choice.
a good one.
Let's see. Thomas says, "Hello, GI team. I had to stop when the Pokemon Gale of Darkness replay popped up on my playlist randomly and wanted to run it by you. Is there a better foundation for a console Pokemon game than the Breath of the Wild map? Think about it." I love that you wrote that because that is the exact line that we've been hearing for 20 years. But just think about it. Think about it with the console RPG of Pokemon. An entirely accessible open world with different towns and cities and lots of different landscapes. Imagine if each town or city had a gym. Wild Pokemon could be all over the map. Do you figure out which gyms to take in any order? Pokemon League in the middle of the map waiting for you? I think it'd be perfect to just use that map.
Imagine a world where we have console Pokemon. I want to imagine that world,
We'll be old men by the time that comes out.
It will never happen. It's like 2D Metroid. It's something that we can dream about and will never happen.
Am I crazy for thinking you'd have to scale back a lot of the aspects of Pokemon for that? Like, I don't know that 600 or 8, however many Pokemon they have at this point would be able to populate a map.
Oh, they could.
Really? Well, not without like almost falling over each other in terms of here's this one Pokemon from Gen 1, here's this other Pokemon. Like, just I feel like that map, in order for it to be what we want it to be, was like here's a field that has Charmanders in it, or like here's a for every Pokemon or like every group of Pokemon to get their own space.
Well, with like Pokemon Sun and Moon, it's not like every Pokemon you can catch in the wild.
Right.
I mean, you have to select number,
right?
And so there would be some extra ways to get the rest.
I just feel like the concept is like, oh, what if it had like? I almost feel like every time someone imagines a Pokemon game, they imagine, what if you could just do it with every Pokemon and it would have every possible feature? I just feel like what makes Breath of the Wild great is that it sort of dials back a lot of the features.
Absolutely.
Of Zelda.
Also, it's just very funny to think about.
It hurts, man.
Of course it hurts.
It hurts.
Just how physics-driven Breath of the Wild is, and the idea of like seeing Pokemon fight in such a physics-driven world, I'm sure it would just be a mess. Just dudes flying all over the place, fire spreading.
It would be awesome.
The Electro rolls down the hill.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, of course.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. People have been saying, hey, I want a 3D Pokemon on a console for years. It's not like, oh, this Breath of the Wild world.
What year will we get the first real RPG, Pokemon RPG on Switch?
Does it count if it's a remake?
A remake?
Does it count if it's like Sun and Moon on or like
port? No, not port.
Not port.
Like a brand new original console.
Brand new.
But not necessarily 3D, but
2025.
The remaster of Gale of Darkness.
You don't think we'll get one 2018?
We're gonna get we're gonna get like a remaster of the GB. Yeah,
I would say 2019, maybe 2020.
If they want to give us
and
that.
Yeah, that's if God shines on us kindly.
Set your calendars to one day.
There we go. Georgie has a question that no one else liked, but I really do. He says, hey all, here's what I've been wondering. How would you go about making a game centered on a super fast protagonist? I feel Sonic may be a hard game to make because it's hard to translate his speed in a fun way our mortal eyes could keep up with. It would seem either slow to them for us to follow, make everything else go in slow motion, or just instantly teleport around like in anime fighting games. So for the Sonic and the Flash games that come in the future, how would you make super speed gameplay as enjoyable as those centered on super strength or acrobatics?
So does the super speed, does it have to be super fast gameplay, or does it just have to be super fast character?
Convey the character.
You could do something along the lines of like the Quicksilver moments from the X-Men films,
right?
Where like the world's moving kind of slow and the characters moving at normal time, and like solving puzzles or doing action.
Well, that's a very interesting point, Reeves, which is why I'm into this. There is Unseen 64, it's a site that rounds up canceled games and whatnot. They released a bunch of footage from a Flash game from last generation that tried to do that exact same thing. And according to the developers of that game, when they made the worlds, like when you ran as Flash around the world and all the cars slowed down or stopped to try and like show how fast he is, it just didn't convey a sense of speed. They found that they actually had to have the cars moving in normal speed and your character just moving that much faster around them. All things being relative, it just doesn't quite feel correct.
But what if you zoomed out a lot and it's like you see basically like here's this enormous landmass, here's the Flash, he's going real fast, but on your screen he says, oh, dot that's moving very slowly.
That'd be tough to get over any obstacles in any way. I just don't think it can be done in 3D.
I got it. Next gen VR, okay?
Yeah.
There's a little capsule that injects game fuel into you, so you just get really amped up and you start going faster, like mentally.
Yeah.
And you just get really into it, just like start freaking out, going really fast.
Right.
Cool. I mean, game fuel.
yeah. Okay.
The only way
what's tricky about it is like there's a difference between like, okay, we have a character that needs to be really fast. How do we communicate the character's fast versus like how do we make a game about being fast fun? And that's kind of like you want to convey a sense of speed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think racing games probably do that the best these days.
And still the most insight I've ever had into racing game design. It's very simple and very stupid. But one time, Tim Turry and I were in Germany interviewing the developers behind Drive Club, that PS4 classic. And it was a good panic moment of like, oh, talk to the Drive Club developers in 30 minutes. What the hell do we ask the developers of Drive Club? Why isn't Kato here?
Yeah.
And so Tim just asked the very basic question of how do you convey a sense of speed in racing games? And then an interesting answer, which is probably super obvious, but they're like, oh, it's just objects close to the road. You just have to, in a racing game, to convey a fast sense of speed, just make sure you have big objects close to the road so you have something to race by. It's all relative. If you just are racing through a wide open field, obviously it's not going to feel like anything, but if you're going through a narrow thing and there's objects right next to either side of your car, you're going to feel like you're going like hell.
You know, so just inflate the mile per hour counter, like F-Zero does.
That's a great idea.
You're basically going normal speed, but it's like the counter says 800,000 miles an hour or whatever.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's a good point. Or you could take the Sonic 06 approach and just suck.
Yeah, just have Mario running and just say he's going at 500,000 miles an hour.
I think the best bet is
Pass this game to the garbage bin.
the most satisfying sense of speed I've had though is stuff like Cannonbolt or like the Runner series. I think do it pretty well when you're flying through all that. I just a 3D. I don't think it's possible.
Still the way.
I think it's absolutely the future of gaming. Sherman Culliver says, "Hey guys, real quick, what's your favorite idle animation in a video game?"
I don't know.
Crash uses a yo-yo. I looked this up a little bit, and there's fun examples of people, characters playing with their own body in a good way.
Okay.
Rayman 2, he turns his body into a basketball and bounces it around, which is very abstract.
That's fun.
Earthworm Jim, I remember, he pulls his head out, or I guess his body out, and then uses the earthworm like a jump rope.
Did he also use it as a lasso? I feel like there's one game
Is that
where
right?
he uses like his own body as a lasso.
There's
Or part of his body.
There's a ton of it in like fighting games. Like a recent example is in Street Fighter V with Birdie. If you let him idle for long enough, he like starts picking his nose and flips a booger, and that actually deals damage.
Really? Oh, that's good. I was watching a video the other day on like Mortal Kombat's idle animations, and they are all really bad. Like their idle animations are really like I never noticed it before, but if you go and just watch their idle animations, they're just moving around and like really stupid.
Yeah.
It's just weird, strangely too fast, like a silent film or something where it's running like 18 frames. Yeah.
And
look,
too
Sub-Zero's
much, like moving around too much.
Or Sub-Zero does Scorpion does this. Sub-Zero does this.
Yeah.
It's very different. Two different.
Still, in so many modern games, idle animations in first-person shooters always make me laugh because they're just moving the gun way too much. If you just stand there, some just completely blow it. I'm trying to think of what I was just looking at recently, but it's just like, this is disgusting. Just relax. You're holding a gun. You don't need to constantly have so much movement happening there.
I think there's one of the Sonic the Hedgehog games where he like looks at his wrist like it's watch or something.
Right.
He's like, come on, we gotta go. He's gotta go fast. Go.
Go fast. John from Mississippi with a crucial question. Hey, do you guys think cowboy hats are acceptable as part of an everyday wardrobe, or is it too close to a costume? I've gotten really into Wild West movies recently, and the fashion is inspiring. Can John from Mississippi get away with wearing a cowboy hat in Mississippi?
Yeah, he's in Mississippi.
I say you do you. If that's what you want to do, then you go for it, man.
It's always tempting.
Do not hold Dan Tag accountable if you get beaten up.
For wearing a cowboy hat?
I don't know.
It's a bold statement. Depends on where you are. Depends on the vibe. Walking around a city in a cowboy hat, it's a tall order.
If you work at a bar, it might be a
Nobody in the city's gonna care. They've seen a lot crazier.
You will stand out, and you really have to be cool to pull it off. If you aren't a cool person,
I assume that he is a cool person.
Oh, I assume he's listening to the podcast. So
I'm kind of in Dan's boat. I mean, if you want to wear a hat, go for it.
Yeah. I grew up in Colorado, so I think I'm the closest thing to a cowboy here. I did not see a lot of people wearing cowboy hats when I grew up, and I think you're right. In the cities, it's weird, but if you're going to a bar, that might be fun.
Or maybe that's a sign that more people should be wearing cowboy hats.
That's right. If you're going to ride your horse to the bar, definitely wear the cowboy hat.
Save a cowboy. I just want to point out that I spent a year of my life living in a ranch. So
what do you mean?
Like when I used to live in Mexico, my dad owned a ranch, and so
what kind of salad dressing?
I'm saying.
Booyah! Stop saying booyah! Sorry, why were we talking about Persona 3 for 45 minutes? You lived on a ranch in Mexico?
Yeah.
What is that like?
I was born there.
What's it like?
It's very spacious.
Okay.
And you have to take care of animals.
Longhorns? What are we talking?
No, it was mostly for it's mostly for crops. It wasn't like a.
Did you wear a cowboy hat?
A ranch for crops?
I don't remember.
Is that a farm?
Yeah, ranch.
But it was
like livestock to call it a ranch.
I mean, it's a very loose term, but like
not here in America.
Ooh, that's confusing.
Do you call yourself a caballero?
A vaquero?
Look,
whoa,
this is coming up later, you guys.
Oh,
hold on.
right.
Wild already. Very relevant. That's fascinating, sir. I had no idea.
No.
Is it as fascinating as I think it is?
Maybe you should talk to your coworkers sometimes off camera.
Certainly, we shan't be doing that. This next email from Edgar Vasquez.
Who's that guy?
Omaha, Nebraska.
What?
He says, "Saludos informadores."
This is getting really weird.
Go for it. Go. Keep going.
Edgar wants to know what happened to Mega Man. I'm not talking about Mega Man games, though. Where the Sigma are they? I'm talking about the actual robot Mega Man. What happened to the cast of Mega Man series after Mega Man 10 and before the X series? Well, confirmed by Inafune, that is not the case. My favorite theory is that Zero killed them, being the last and greatest creation of Wily during his rebellious phase. Since it's never been officially explained, what do you think happened to the original Blue Bomber? Cyril, you want to answer your brother's question here?
I haven't delved too much into the lore. I feel like we should have had Kyle on for this question because I feel like he would.
No.
Well, in lieu of that, I feel like they play that stuff pretty loosely on purpose, just because like they do allude that they take place in the same universe, but I don't think they ever explicitly come out and say like here's the game that's going to bridge that gap.
I mean, so that's the real answer. But what should happen?
Dr. Light comes back and packs him up in a little crate.
Yeah,
puts him under a Christmas tree.
Yeah,
and then Link opens it, and you got a tie-in game.
Well, I think
Let's do it.
I think the practical solution here is that
you told me to stop doing it.
Dr. Light develops a new firmware, and then it's just like, well, if I'm gonna have this firmware doing all the things it does, it's just not compatible with regular Mega Man. So I'm gonna make a new Mega. I'm sorry, Mega Man. You're just gonna have to. If you want a new Mega Man, you're gonna have to buy a new Mega Man. Every year, we're gonna have to cycle Mega Man.
And Armature is gonna make it. So
Yes.
be greedy in first person.
Yes.
Absolutely. Got it. Do you have another message for your brother Edgar?
Hi.
Cool.
Why did you get the normal name?
Tommy White from Pennsylvania says, "Hey, Ben and crew, I've been playing a lot of Picross 3D lately, and something very strange has been happening. I find that it very often enters my mind, even when I'm thinking about something else. For example, as I was watching a movie the other night, even as I paid attention, I often found that the different patterns of the game and the best ways to solve them kept entering into the back of my consciousness. So my question is, has there ever been a video game that you just couldn't get out of your mind?"
Picross 3D. It's really good, by the way.
Good playing game.
Is that one of the overlooked games of last year, maybe?
Actually, maybe. Was that on our top 50? I know we debated it.
I think it was.
I think we had to talk about it a bit.
Yeah.
What game was I going to mention?
I think for me the classic one is Tony Hawk. Like after playing a lot of Tony Hawk, it's impossible to walk around outside and not be like, I suppose if you're an actual skateboarder, the world just looks like that to you all the time. But when you're a video game skateboarder, that's the only way you sort of get a window into that is
That's
Tony
cool.
Hawk.
Well, you could be the Ben Reeves of the bunch and try and steal an actual car after playing GTA.
That's true.
Nice.
That happened.
Really going the extra mile.
I just told that story
I know. That's
I did not know that.
Stardew Valley, I think last year was a huge one for me. It's like
you just can't stop thinking
could
about it.
not stop.
You just started watering plants all
with anything. Any liquid I had.
So good.
It was a really good game.
I think the two games that I regularly think about on almost daily basis are Advance Wars and I think about it. And just the idea of like, here's what
You can't do that, Hanson. That give me crap.
it's mostly like, oh man, I would really like to do this version of Advance Wars. Like just thinking about those units and how I would play with those, and then also obviously Dota 2. I think about that game almost every day.
Advance Wars on a daily basis.
Oh, I said Advance Wars almost daily.
Okay.
But Dota 2 definitely daily. Like it's something.
I can't believe you laughed in his face.
I know. And then I'm the bad guy, right?
Comedy is just fully the unexpected hit me and I did not expect to think about Advance Wars on an almost daily basis. That's amazing.
What can I say?
What? All right, cool. I like it. The last part for me is like Puyo Puyo, like trying to understand that game and shape my brain and vision around it for getting better at Puyo Puyo Tetris. Really took over for a little bit.
Mine was just a recent one was Neo when I was playing it. It was like this oppressive weight constantly bearing down on me.
I'm so sorry. Taylor from Macedonia, Ohio. Great name, Ohio. Hey, GI crew, with Call of Duty going back to its roots, is it possible for Halo 6 to do the same thing? I'm a longtime fan, and the multiplayer from Halo 5 feels so far removed from traditional Halo mechanics that I feel it's never going to head in that direction. Reach started this trend, then forward dialed it back a little. However, 5 is the most far removed from the Halo multiplayer experience. I can't be the only one hoping for a return to the old style. Wade in the booth, you want to pipe in here? A return to the old style, like the slow moving combat that it used to be? I mean,
Hang 'em high.
This was only. Yeah.
What exactly does that even mean? Because Halo 5 was supposed to be a simplification of the combat because it got way out of control with all the loadouts and the armor abilities. So they simplified it and made everyone have the same exact thing and loadout in the beginning.
But then they had that card system and everything, but they complicated
That's in Warzone.
Okay,
I'm
so
assuming they're talking about the arena.
I would think so too.
There's certain things like running, for example. I feel like people were always complaining they wanted in Halo, and now they have it. So are they saying, is he suggesting take that stuff back too? Or?
I think so. Here's the thing.
Is that the Boots in the Crown equivalent?
It might be.
It sounds like he just wants to play Halo again for the first time.
And this is the thing, Taylor, I love you. I agree, Halo 6, I don't know what direction they're going to take. I don't know what that messaging is going to be. They've said it's going to focus on Halo or on Master Chief again instead of like the crew. But especially with like all those games being available on Xbox One, you can have that pristine multiplayer experience if you want it on the current console. I feel like that's a lot, man. To expect a new game to go back to it, I don't know. I think
that game had its time in the sun. I don't know.
I think it's different.
Jeez, like, dude, Reeves is just like laying down this like stuff today. Like, seriously, he comes in here and starts like
Halo's had its
taking
time
games on. Yeah,
I feel those games have aged well enough that you could go back to.
Get over
like, if you wanted to have like a Halo 3 party, I would play that game. I think that game has held up pretty well.
Yeah,
Everything you love is going to die.
Yeah, Reeves is like coming here and just be like, the games you love, they're garbage, man.
Enter the Gonzaga or nothing.
There it is.
Not a day goes by that I don't think about Pan's Dragon.
Let's see. Jeff Wachowski, he says, always believe. And he writes in and says, I was watching the latest GI show, and out of nowhere, Joe Juba reminded me of Tella from Final Fantasy IV.
Yeah, that's right. Awesome character.
He says, I'm no artist, but see attached here. He has some concept art.
He tweeted this to me. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Sorry, audio listeners. It's very stupid.
I see that. It's good.
Oh, I see what the amount of this image he had to modify in order to get it to look like him maybe doesn't make his case super well, but
Why are there two?
Look, it's not important.
This goes back to our discussion.
this one has the ice price and this one doesn't.
Awesome, archetypal sacrificial fight against the big villain Golbez. Super cool character.
The best.
The only time he ever gets to cast the ultimate spell, he uses it to kill himself. It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I take that as a high compliment. Oh man, I spent so much time trying to level up Tella to get him those extra MPs so he could finally cast me.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
You can't do it.
Also, this is a Game Informer show first, but Michael Davis writes in and says, Hey GI, I watched your recent podcast, decided to draw up a little something I hope you'll enjoy. I love you, Joe.
Wow.
And this is
More than
another
one.
piece of Joe fan art.
Wow,
This
incredible.
is fan art of Joe throwing a grenade into the conversation, talking about Breath of the Wild being overrated.
And that was awesome. I was there for that. That was really good.
It is art of Joe chucking grenade because Joe says that.
I am so jealous. This is
It's
so
very well
good.
done.
Oh, that is so good.
I'm looking at this. Hey, can we get this on the
Also-
camera? Can we like?
Oh, yeah, I'll put it up.
All right, excellent.
Also, I need to get a shirt that just says #1 Juba on it.
That is a very.
That's what your face says every
That is
morning.
inspired right there.
I'm keeping this.
Also, is it weird that we don't have a door with the Game Informer logo anywhere in the office?
Yeah, we really should probably have that. So Michael writes in and says, the bringing of the subject of Joe not enjoying Zelda at the time. I hope he's coming around to it. By the way, Joe, we'll get into the discussion later, don't we? I was sort of in the same boat when I first started the game, but when I finally started setting goals for myself and just exploring it, it became an awesome experience. It made me think of other games that left a bad first impression, and playing more of it saved it. In a complete 180, like Mass Effect 1 and 2 and Dragon Age 2. Are there any games you've completely 180'd on? Like, become a huge fan?
I have a classic example.
What?
Dark Souls. First time I played Dark Souls, I put it down because I thought it was crap. I walked out, I got killed by the skeletons like 10 times, and I'm like, wow. You know what? I don't see what the draw is in this game. I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Then I went back to it like 6 months later. I'm like, wow, this is a great game.
I did that with Demon Souls, actually. Yeah. Like, Dark Souls is the good one. Demon Souls sucks. And then I went back. I was like, all right, this game's actually pretty good too.
Yeah.
Witcher 3 was the one for me.
Oh, interesting.
I played that for 10 hours and was like, I don't see what I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't like this. And I stopped playing it for like probably 3 or 4 months, I think, and then it was like, maybe I should go back and give that another shot. And picked it up and got super into it.
It is so weird to think back on your early impressions of those games. Even like Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, starting both those games, it's like, I don't like this anymore. I don't like what's done to the systems. I miss the way it used to be. And now it's just like, oh, no, the third trilogy was great. What was I thinking?
Yes, that question next week, and Ben Reeves will say
Mass Effect Andromeda. It's had its time in the sun. It's time to fade.
Let it go.
It's like a raisin.
It needs to ripen.
Yeah, you got it, dude.
That's it. For me, I'm not even joking, but Halo 2 was this game I went to the midnight launch for, and I was like super excited about it, and brought it home. I was like, I don't know if I like this anymore. And it came out around the same time as GTA San Andreas, I think.
Okay.
And so I went back to that, and after finishing up San Andreas, because I just was in the mood for San Andreas, I think, I went back to Halo 2, and I was like, actually, this game's good.
Yeah, swords are cool, it turns
And
out.
now that Series is dead, but
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Hey, everybody.
Just go in there. It's just,
What's your favorite email?
there's some good ones in there.
Serial's brother seems very cool. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
I don't know if we can give him anything.
My favorite is
Is that a conflict of interest?
whoever drew this.
Michael Davis.
I absolutely.
You know what? I support that.
What was his question? The amount of effort it took him to like do this, like I am very very jealous of you, Joe.
It doesn't need a question. It's a picture of me throwing a grenade.
Like, that is pure avatar, Twitter avatar play. Like, that would be great.
Good.
Give it to that man.
His question
If you
was
don't
the
want to
one
do it, I'll do it.
the question you just answered about 38 seconds
okay.
ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great question. That was a good question. Art plus good question. Yeah.
There we go.
I think we give him credit for the art.
Yeah, sure. Michael Davis, we'll ship you out something real nice. Thank you for your wonderful Joe Juba fan art. He will hang it proudly above his desk, I'm quite sure.
Oh, yeah. One day I'll have fan art.
Yeah, someday it's real. That's your brother Edgar. I mean, it's not real nice.
They could draw you on a.
That would be I got one fan art by my brother.
Anyways, that's it for the community section. Next in the Game Flow Show, we're talking to Tameem from Ninja Theory, all about making DMC, Heavenly Sword, Enslaved, and the process of making Hellblade. He's an interesting developer with some very strong opinions, so stay tuned for that. Tameem, welcome to the Game Flow Show, sir. Yeah, we look at your face a lot, editing a lot of videos throughout the month, but this is how we're officially capping off our, end of a month of coverage on Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. So it's nice to have you here, man.
No, man, it's been great. Thanks for creating all that stuff. Like, it's kind of awesome for us to see that.
Oh, we just wrote articles and edited videos. You're actually making a game, but have you been following the coverage? Do you read comments, or is there anything that really stands out?
I've been reading it all, and anyone that tells you they don't is probably a liar. Right? No, it's good. I think it's encouraging. It's a bit different from the last time we did a big press push on the game. That was Devil May Cry, I guess.
What feels different about it?
Well, I think it's just that we don't have. I think just that we're coming at it. It was coming at it fresh with sort of an idea that we felt was interesting, and it's hard to know whether it would be interesting to other people or whether people would find it, I don't know, pretentious or just a boring subject to tackle or something like that. And actually, it's been really nice to see people be genuinely supportive and interested in at least the idea of tackling, the AAA market or tackling mental health. That those are interesting things to tackle. So that's cool.
Have you seen any reactions that have been surprising for you?
I'm always surprised when I see when I read, or encouraged actually, when I see people that say I have suffered from mental health, and I'm fully behind a game trying to portray it.
Yeah,
like that because I must admit, like when we started this game, I thought that it'd be mostly the opposite. That it would be mostly people saying shouldn't be making this game.
Right.
But the other thing I'm encouraged by is just, I think, the idea that, the idea of developers being independent, making games, trying not to do the big budget stuff, and get games out that, that are smaller and cheaper, that there's sort of I think an appetite for that people feel like, I'll give that sounds like a good idea,
Yeah, I think your studio's garnered enough goodwill along the way. So we've seen so many comments like, hell yeah, Ninja Theory, do what you want to do, you guys are cool. Is there anything you want to clear up, anything you see out there where it's like, I don't think they quite have a correct read on this?
I guess the one thing that did kind of pop out that I thought, oh wait a minute, like there was some. It wasn't in the Game Informer comments. It was some like people saying, "Well, why do all Ninja Theory characters have tribal paint, and why she got dreadlocks? Isn't that cultural appropriation?" And it's like, well, actually, in this case, she's a Celtic Pict, so that's why they're called Picts, because they're pictorial. They have tribal paint on them, and they put lime in their hair, which created kind of clumps that look like dreadlocks. So it's like we're trying to be. All that baggage doesn't really count.
Gotcha. Just like the paint over eyes. It seems like maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but it seems like a artistic trend lately in a lot of fiction is to have the characters with the paint over the eyes. I mean, look at like Mad Max Fury Road, or even Death Stranding, Kojima's new game, or there's another one, PB and Mass Effect Andromeda? Why do you think it's become a weird zeitgeist
I
artistic
don't
trend?
know. It might just be one of those things like 3 buses arriving at once or something. I don't know.
Okay, all right, sure. Well, hey, to start off, some people wanted to take a look back before we focus too much on Hellblade. Rob the Butcher was wondering, he writes in and says, the only game I played of yours is Enslaved, and I gotta say, it was really good. And then he asked the age-old question, how was it working with Andy Serkis? How did he contribute to the studio during that development process? Would you willingly collaborate with him again? Or unwillingly, actually.
It was really fun working with Andy. Like, Andy's, he's so nice. Like, he's as nice as he seems in his interviews and stuff like that. And you know how I met him was pure chance and accident. It was because my brother was doing his mortgage. I slipped in a trailer for Heavenly Sword and said, why don't you ask him if you'd like to get involved in games? And he gave me a call. And he then called, he put us in touch with Weta in New Zealand. He arranged that whole thing on Heavenly Sword, so we all flew out to New Zealand for 6 weeks. You know, and you know, all of us, not just Andy and us, but all the cast and crew, everyone, we just came out of it great friends. You know, we were just having fun, hanging out. And then when we were on set, it was like, he knew how to work with actors, he knew how to work with story, he knew how to manage and run a crew. He's a master of what he does, and we wouldn't be doing half the stuff we're doing if it wasn't for him.
That's wild, and to think that it was all just a mortgage. And I'm sure, you know, your brother was like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, I don't want to. This seems like crossing some weird boundary that I don't want to cross, but it turns out it paid off.
You know, you don't ask, you don't get, I guess, is the message. But yeah, that was serendipity.
Yeah. But what do you think about, it just seems like he's so entrenched within the Disney family now, with Star Wars and Marvel. What do you think about his bizarre rise?
I can't believe how much he works. He's in everything, isn't he?
Officially.
He's running his own studio, that, you know, performance capture studio in London. He set that up. They're making games as well, and he's doing films, CG films, like his own films and other people's. I just don't know how he does it. He was in some Marvel films, I think, as well, and as well as Star Wars. I just don't know how the man does it. It's like a machine. It's really awesome, inspiring. I'm far lazier than that guy. I wish I had his energy.
Did you ever reach out for him to play Senua? Was that ever on the table?
No.
Let's see. So Jacob BG42 asked a simple question: are you more of a Bayonetta guy or a Devil May Cry guy? I assume this is Devil May Cry 1.
I have to say Devil May Cry. I mean, but they both have the same spirit, don't they? They both have the same DNA. They're both awesome games.
Do you enjoy playing stylish action games? Did you play like Bayonetta 2, for example?
No, I did Bayonetta 1. I don't know why Bayonetta 2 skipped. I skipped over that. It wasn't intentional. But I think in terms of the character, I have a, you know, I grew up playing Devil May Cry, so I have more of a connection with Dante. Like he's the man.
Underdrinker is just asking in general, how has working with Capcom changed the way you guys make games?
I think Capcom was really. I mean, every game we do with every publisher, you know, we learn a huge amount and it changes, and I think that shows in our. I think the quality of our games, you know, they might be different, but they get. I think they get better. Capcom, working with Itsuno-san in particular, who was director of the Devil May Cry franchise, or at least Devil May Cry 3 and 4. He he's someone we look up to. Like he has such an eye for responsiveness of controls, for letting the player express themselves with the controller and the character. So we would talk right down to animation frames, single animation frames, milliseconds to get the touch and feel of combat feeling good. So what he brought was just that ultra attention to detail, like the kind of precision that you get from Japanese action. That's what we took away from it. It's really awe-inspiring to work with him. I mean, he also used to be a school teacher, right? So the way he taught us was really great. He was never dictatorial, going, "You must do this, you must do that." He was like, Capcom themselves, they didn't touch a line of code or a single pixel in our version of DMC, but the input, the advice was invaluable.
Is there anything concrete, any just perspective, just one sentence lesson that he imparted that changed the way you look at action games, or is it just a matter of having a very fine-tooth comb over every detail?
I mean, one thing he said, kept saying, is that if you think if the player thinks you should be able to do something, if you try and do something, the game should support it, right? So it's not us as designers that we set the rules of what we want the player to do or not do, and then it's up to the player to figure out. It was more about, at least on Devil May Cry, it was more about, well, if you think you can parry and go into this and do that and this, and you try it out with the controller, let the player do it. Let the character respond and do it, even if it doesn't look right. Even if it's odd to go from this frame to that frame. It's better that you give the player what they want to do than to try and achieve visual perfection. So gameplay over necessarily what the animators would want it to do.
Yeah, for sure. I know, while visiting the studio, I kissed your ass a little bit, not being a Devil May Cry guy, but playing DMC and just absolutely loving the amount of creativity you guys packed into there. And we made some quick reference to it, but I'd love to focus on that clan mission in particular. So everybody always brings up, Raptor 2's network boss fight and, the inverted lake and stuff as levels, but that plan level was so great, just having the blueprints actually rendered in the world as they're theoretically laying out the mission of how to invade this tower. Do you want to talk about the design of that and how that came about?
I don't know. It's a lot of the ideas just come about late. They're not planned at the start. Sometimes, we knew we had this big mission to do, and the most boring part of story and cutscenes is the exposition of what you have to do. You have to do this, and then you have to do that, and you have to do that, and you sort of go, well, how do we make that not someone talking?
Yeah.
And I honestly don't know where the idea came from. It could have been me, it could have been someone on the team. I honestly can't remember, but I remember once that idea surfaced and someone said, why don't we treat the whole thing as a flashback, as some kind of the plan that's being drawn turns into the level that's being played. And it was like, wow, that sounds cool. How do we do that? And then someone goes away and tries out some stuff, and then it looks cool, and then we go, let's change the story around this idea because it's worth it. And I think in an action game, like an adventure game, I think our job is to try and surprise people level to level. So every time we go into a level, we think, well, what's different about this? What's new about this? Why is this different to what's before, right? And if there isn't anything different, you just know you missed something. You missed a trick. There's a key missing. That's how I think of it. It's like there's always a key to every scene and to every level, and you just got to find it. And you know when you've got it because it just all falls into place when you do. And when it doesn't, you usually end up just struggling. The gameplay feels repetitive, or visually it feels dull, or derivative, or in gameplay it feels derivative, and it's usually because you've missed this one key. So you just go into it going, there's a cool idea here, even if you don't know what it is, we have to discover it.
But how much of game development is somebody saying, God, wouldn't it be cool if, and then someone goes away and tries typing it up and working on the code and just realizing, technically, production-wise, we just can't pull this off with the schedule we have. Isn't that just over and over again, the mantra?
Well, I mean, like, I never buy that excuse. Like, often I think these ideas come about because you don't have time left to finish something. Like to do it in a normal way or conventional way, you'd have to put too much in, and you'd still probably not have something interesting. So sometimes you bring together an idea like the plan thing. Actually, it made a lot of things simpler. Instead of having cutscenes with people telling you what to do here and there all over the place, it meant there was that one device. Like, all we needed was like some cool visual effects and some good voice, and we could explain what was a really complicated setup. That I wasn't super confident that we could explain to people, without some kind of map.
Right.
So sometimes these ideas are actually there to streamline or simplify an idea, and sometimes it pays off, and sometimes it spectacularly goes wrong. But more times than not, as long as more times than not it pays off, you're good.
Right on. Well, I had to shift over to Hellblade a little bit. McGee Lee says, you stated before that you want Hellblade to be more than just a game, but an experience. With that in mind, do you have certain themes and or metaphors that may sometimes come to mind, but be too on the nose for what you want to do with them? How much of this game are you thinking in terms of metaphors and kind of working through other issues through Senua's Journey here?
Yeah, so I mean, the question is phrased as you want it to be more than a game, an experience. I mean, which sounds potentially, pretentious, but it's not meant. That's not. I don't think a game is trying to be pretentious. I think what the game is admitting is that it's a story experience. It's a story-based experience, and as long as you're good with that, it's a good. It'll be that's what the game is. It's not better than a game. That's what the game is.
Okay.
In metaphors, yes, there are metaphors in the game. All kinds of metaphors, but one of the things about psychosis is that a lot of the things that we think of as metaphors are, in fact, incredibly literal to people suffering from or experiencing psychosis. So, for example, when kids go, there's a monster under my bed, or there's a monster in the cupboard, it's almost universal. Almost every kid says that at some point. And if they can't see it, they can sort of sense that there's someone under their bed, a monster under their bed. Read an account by someone who had schizophrenia, who said that when they were a kid, they saw a demon under their bed. Like, they could see the demons coming through the walls, like in the bed. And they just assumed everyone could as well.
That's why people are talking about monsters so much, yeah.
Yeah. So what is talked about metaphorically is made literal. So in Hellblade, a lot of the things that we would maybe think of as metaphors, you would see them. She would see them.
Gotcha.
But that's cool. That's what fantasy, I think, actually is.
Yeah. Jade Gamer asked something in that vein. He says, how will the player know that Senua's perception of the world is different from the quote-unquote real world if the real world is never shown to the player?
That's a great question. And the reason it's a great question is because it's probably the biggest lesson I've learned making this game, which is, at the start of development, we were all talking about reality and, how do we know what's real and what's not real? By the time we've spoken to service, people who have experienced this kind of condition, and Paul Fletcher, Professor Paul, who you met, where what became very clear is that there is no objective reality that we experience, right? So the idea that there's a real world and one that isn't real is sort of nonsense when you think about it. The only probable thing that is objective is probably mathematics, because it's sort of irreducible and universal, but and physics comes from mathematics, so that too. But in terms of our experience of the world, we are constantly hallucinating our own realities, and some of us, your reality is not mine, it's not his or hers, and to some people it goes to much more extreme levels, and then we draw a line and we call them psychotic.
Right.
But there isn't. We're playing the game through Senua's reality. For her, these things are real. They will kill her. There is no real world other than her real.
So it's not going to matter, like, during the credits, the camera's going to fly around and show what was really happening the whole time or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No. And take some time to think about your reality and consider whether the things that you actually see, hear, and do and believe are real. Because they might be real to you, but they're probably not real to someone else. And they will be asking you, well, why can't you see my reality?
Yeah, if you're freaked out right now watching or listening to this, just think, this is what Tanima's been living with for the past, 3 to almost 4 years, like working with Professor Paul Fletcher, incredibly smart guy. He will freak your shit out. He will leave questioning everything.
I feel like I've taken the blue pill or the red pill.
I think you both. They just kept cramming them in your mouth. Yeah.
Taking too many pills.
LA, the ambassador of GI, as he claims it, is wondering, we've seen in previews that the player's perception can be altered, specifically the flames in the woods. My question is, how often will these events occur? Are they like set pieces, or is it a more dynamic element to the game's world?
So stuff like, sorry, repeat that last bit. So stuff like flames and stuff like that appearing in the world.
Yeah, he's wondering if that's going to be dynamic, or are all the kind of stronger hallucinations, is that all part of a set piece type?
Well, I mean, there's some set pieces, but it's also just there all the time. It's like the voices that the Furies, we call them, like the cacophony of voices are pretty much always there. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. There's things like when you're running through, like you might be running through a forest and then you start noticing that the trees only move when you move, and you don't know why, and you might try and figure it out. Or if you listen to the waves in the ocean, they might morph into the sounds of screaming people or suffering, and it's like all this stuff we're taking care to put into the game so that it feels like things are constantly like strange and like sinister, untrustworthy. Like you can't trust your senses and stuff. And then occasionally it goes into full-blown set, intense set pieces. But the idea is, or the goal is, that everything you hear and experience is always puts you on edge because you know that something's wrong all the time.
Right on. And that the tree example is a great one for kind of, it's set piece-ish, it's interesting, but it is dynamic, it is based on what the player is doing. It's not that happens all the time. But there's never going to be situations where sometimes you walk through that forest or sometimes you walk up to the ocean's edge and you don't hear that and the trees don't sway, right? Like, it's just, in this area, the trees will always sway.
Yes, but you'll probably miss it,
Right. Well,
there's a very good chance you'll miss it, and that's okay. It's just, if you notice it, you discover the secret. You discover the secrets about the world, which may or may not mean something.
Sure.
And that's over and over. That's sort of over and over. That's what people tell us their experience is like when they're experiencing psychosis. That things mean they find strange meaning in the world around them, and they hear things that are significant, important, that stand out, or they see branches that move, and they're sure that that tree is not moving because of the wind, but because it wants to. It's trying to say something to you. Like it's very strange.
Gotcha. Next Gen Warrior is wondering, Hellblade seems like a game that intends to deeply immerse the player in the experience. In what ways have you tried to design the game to be more immersive? I think you've already listed off some of them, but do you have other little tricks?
That's a massive. That's a broad question. It's very difficult to answer. It's all the pieces of all of the above coming together in a way in a way that's not is basically our job.
All right, so everything. Well, here this might get the ball rolling a little bit. Tora was wondering. I was wondering how the music is going to enhance the atmosphere you're going for in this game. Is the music going to only play during key moments, or will it constantly be a soundtrack?
That's a good one because, like, the intention is that you hear the world through her ears, through her mind. So, if you start putting stuff like a soundtrack, like in a movie, it sort of removes you from her, right? Because now you know that there's some composer, Hans Zimmerman has done a wonderful composition and accompanying the action, and you know that you're playing a game or watching a film. Whereas what we want to do is make everything subjective. So there's a lot of sound in the game, but it's more like soundscapes. And when there's music, they feel more like the music feels more like the memory of music that she's heard. It's like the soundtrack of her mind. It's more like remembering a song than it is playing a song. I guess one exception might be during combat sections where it's full-on combat and you're fighting all the Viking warriors or what have you, where it's tribal. But then even that, I think, is still in keeping with that idea that she's heard the drums, she's heard them chant, and it's playing in those moments.
Gotcha. Interesting way to look at it. Andre Villafranca must be a fan of your dev diaries. He's wondering, why do you guys change the combat mechanics? Directional attacks and defense would have been great, which is something you showed off in a very early dev diary, but yeah, why the evolution of combat in the way that you've evolved it?
Well, we went. I think this is what we wanted to show in the dev diaries, is that like in game development, like you try a bunch of stuff and sometimes you change direction, and mechanically it was interesting, like doing directional blocking and directional attacks. But maybe this is our failing, but we couldn't make it like fun. We could make it intellectually fun, but not. You didn't feel the fight. Like it felt robotic. It felt like you were a robot following straight, like very artificial designer rules. Block up, attack left, attack right, block up, whatever. And it felt soulless.
Yeah.
No matter how much work we put into it, we just couldn't break away from that feeling that we're at a dead end.
I'm curious now, did anybody on the team play For Honor, which is also very much going for that directional combat? And I think it largely
No. This was probably a year before.
No, yeah, for sure. But has anybody played it now and thought about that direction again?
No. I think for better or worse, and I think for better, we changed direction, and the game's been getting better and more interesting for it. And there's no, once you break away from the fact that you have to stick to a quadrant of mechanical stuff, it opens you up to do all kinds of different moves that are much more organic, and sets you free to kind of, I don't know, I think the fight flows better.
Yeah.
As a result.
Especially like fighting multiple enemies, and imagine that'd be a huge hang up for that focused directional combat.
It's just a little weird, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, for us it felt a little weird.
Sure.
Well, I'm not saying it's wrong for Honor.
Yeah. Mindfu is wondering, did you guys have to cancel any big ideas or features that you had during development due to trying to keep the budget low?
Yeah, totally. I mean, all the time. I mean, that is, in fact, what we do for a living, is cut out all the cool ideas we can't do due to budget and performance and stuff like that, and try and come up with cool ideas that we can do. So even the stuff like, wanted to have a big cast of characters in the game, a reasonable cast of characters in the game, like we didn't have in Sword and DMC and such, and couldn't afford it. We could afford to make one character, so we designed the game around one character. But it goes on and on and on. I'd like to have had more enemies, more bosses. Like this, it's endless. The amount of stuff you have to compromise in one way, but then find cool solutions in another way. So I think that's the art of making stuff.
Yeah, for sure. That boy Peepo is wondering, what do you guys think of God of War 4 doing the focus on narrative instead of gameplay approach and changing combat to an over-the-shoulder, deliberately paced, vaguely Dark Souls-y type of thing? Have you guys looked at God of War 4 much? I know we made a joke about it in the rapid fire.
The announcements, like the playthrough of the announcements, and yeah, it did have some similarities, like similar camera, Norse mythology. And I think, I don't know, I mean, sometimes I think, like, when you're making a game or anything, like a movie or whatever, like, there's always going to be a game or several games that come out that are similar. It's unavoidable. I remember even on Kung Fu Chaos, we thought, okay, what we're going to do is multiplayer, 4-player melee combat, but we're going to do it on big moving sets, and it's going to be awesome, and no one's doing that. And then Power Stone 2 came out, back in the middle of it, and we were like, oh man. Then, on Heavenly Sword, actually, it was like, let's do a single camera thing, so you don't have to mess around with the camera, and it's a single rail camera, evade on the right stick, and stuff like that. And then God of War, the original God of War, came out around the same time, or just before, I can't remember, and it had the same control. And so this has happened every single game we've done, and I think it probably happens to every single person that makes games. So I think it's cool. I think in a way it sort of goes like, well, we wanted our things to be more intimate. They want it to be more intimate. More intimate means more story. They want it to be more story. And like, I think it comes from a similar place, which is how do we get you closer to the action, closer to the characters. And I think it's cool. I mean, that's going to be a massive blockbuster game. We're going to be a smaller game that's probably, more intimate in terms of characterization about mental health and stuff like that. They'll be different enough, but I think, it's not we're not running for the hills quite yet.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting that several game developers out there are thinking, like, now is the time in the video game industry to get more intimate. Now we think we can pull this off. Yeah. I wonder if it's an influence. I mean, drawing it directly to The Last of Us might be too easy of a line to draw, but do you think there's anything there?
Yeah, but then, other people are going, well, The Last of Us looks a lot like Enslaved, our game. And it's like, well, when we were doing Enslaved, everyone was going, well, Enslaved looks a lot like Uncharted. So it's like, well, I don't know when Uncharted was out, we were going, well, that looks a lot like Tomb Raider. Like,
right.
Endless.
Games look like games.
Yeah.
So, in the rapid fire interview, which again, thank you for doing. That was very stupid, and I appreciate you being a good sport. But in it, you said that the studio is working on 4 projects, and there's a lot of speculation about what that meant. There's a NeoGAF thread where a lot of people were like, "Well, they're going to be all mobile things." Can you rule out that you guys are working on any mobile games?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're not touching mobile. Like,
why is that?
Possible. It's honestly, it's a really bad place, like show, really. Like, the people that are making successful games on mobile are people that are spending hundreds of millions on marketing, on acquiring users, and then monetizing their users. It's just a different space, and everyone else. Like, there's so many games coming out every single day, and you might as well just chuck them out the window. Like, there's not getting any traction. People aren't paying for stuff. It's just not a great place.
Leo Franco on Twitter, I don't know exactly what this means, is asking, is their project that they're working on, other than Hellblade, Senua Studio?
Oh, okay. So when we did our demo with Epic at GDC, and at SIGGRAPH, where we showed out motion capture technology that we've been developing.
Yeah.
they got a lot of traction. So we won a real-time live award at SIGGRAPH, and that was awesome. That was up against a lot of big players like Pixar and ILM and stuff. And so we announced Senua Studio, which is like, it's not games related. It's more like, well, if somebody wants to do a concert, say with a virtual character like Hakune Miike, but real time, or virtual production or stuff like that. We've got this tech now that we can do this stuff in. So we set up a division that's just like, come to us for this stuff. So people have been getting in touch about, various things like either adverts or interviews with real-time characters and stuff like that. And we'll see where that goes. Like, it's not really my focus.
Gotcha. So they come into the studio then to like record in your mocap space?
Yeah. Or we can ship. Or we can, we can go off site and do it. Because we did the GDC demo in San Francisco. We did another one in Germany at FMX, and then we went to SIGGRAPH. So we can take care of all the logistics and technical side of things, and create characters and stuff, and help make things for TV or movies or stage shows. That's the idea.
Okay, gotcha.
But we will think about using it for Hellblade as well, because now we've got Melina and Senua characters. Like, there's no real reason we couldn't do live Twitch streams with Senua.
That's, I don't want to tell you how to market your game around launch, but that sounds pretty good. Or just make her the next J-pop star. Can't be that hard.
Yeah, totally.
So is that
invoice though?
So just to be clear though, for Leo's question, is that one of the projects you guys are working on? Do you consider that one of the 4?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
No, that's just another thing. Like, the other projects. They vary in size. They're like exploring very different ideas. Like, they're not big projects like, DMC.
Okay.
So they're smaller projects of different sizes, yeah, but not as small as mobile.
Okay, cool. So a lot of people asked about it, not even in relation to Hellblade, but what are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch? I remember at the studio you conveyed that you're a big Nintendo fan. Have you played much of it? Does the studio have thoughts on it?
I don't have it, unfortunately. I've been playing games for quite a long time, actually, for the last few months. I think the last game I really sunk my teeth into was Inside, and I only played it because I knew it was short, because I'm just trying to get this game, wrapped up.
Pro tip, you should check out What Remains of Edith Finch. It's also short, it just came out. It's very, very cool. I think it'd be up your alley.
Right, okay, cool.
So you haven't played any?
I thought Inside was a masterpiece.
Oh, yeah, it seems also very up your alley. But no thoughts on the Switch? Are you interested in Nintendo's direction?
It looks great, and I'm going to get one, and then I'm going to after Hellblade, I'm going to just take a few weeks or maybe even a few months off and catch up on everything. I think it looks. It's Nintendo, right? So it's like it's the hardware, it's the software, and you can only get those Nintendo games on whatever Nintendo. You can only get their games on their platform, so I'll get their platforms and play their games. And it'll be awesome.
Yeah. Did working on Disney Infinity open the studio's mind to more family-friendly projects in the future?
What it did was it opened us to. I don't think we would come up with a family-friendly project.
Okay.
Do I look family-friendly? Do any of us? No, I don't know. That's not fair. Actually, a lot of people in the studio have kids and stuff, so it could happen. Maybe I quite liked that Henry thing in VR. That was really
the little film.
Yeah, so I wonder, maybe VR will be quite a good place for that kind of Pixar-ish type experience. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Let's see. Yoda's Llama, strange name, asks simple advice. If someone wanted to start an indie game company, what advice or suggestions would you give them?
I'd advise you don't do it. And if you still, and I'd keep advising you to not do it, and if you still feel like you want to do it, then then you should do it.
It just takes that willpower to force through.
It takes a lot of willpower. Like, it's like it takes over your life. I mean, you gotta. Well, okay, let me be more practical than that. Right. So, and this is based on my own path, which is I really wanted to make games, and to do that, I worked my ass off on programming and art and doing a showreel, and I got a job in a games company. And I did that for 5 years as a programmer, as a designer, and I learned how to make games working alongside people that were awesome. And then when I thought I knew how to make a game, I set up a studio with people I trusted that I'd already worked with alongside I knew were awesome. And I think that's great. That's a good way to do it. It's almost like you learn the ropes in a professional environment if you can. You find the people that you love and that you can spend 5-10 years with without being at each other's throat. It's super important. And then I quit my job, and I didn't have any money, but I quit my job because I knew that it would take. I had about maybe 5 months of I could feed myself for 5 months.
Gotcha.
It's not that bad. And I quit my job and I just focused on it because I knew that anything else would have been a distraction. So it takes a real commitment, I think, to learn what you have to do, find people that you really trust, that trust in you, and then don't do it in a half. You got to go all in, jump in, and you got to understand that the chances of failure are super high, but it doesn't matter because what you're in there for, what you will learn going through that process, outweighs anything to do with the embarrassment of failing. Because once you see how it can be done, whether you succeed or fail, you'll know how to do it the next time better. So I think it's I do genuinely think if your heart's in it, you should go for it. But you're going to make sacrifices. You're going to suffer for it.
Wow. Was there a moment where it felt overall worthwhile and satisfying? Was it the release of Kung Fu Chaos? Did it take until Heavenly Sword before you guys felt like, yep, I'm glad I made the sacrifice?
I think there's lots of little wins and lots of. I think it's up and down all the way through. Even now, it's up and down, and it's a fight. It's never got easier. It's never gotten easier. You think it'd get easier over time, and it doesn't. It just gets. It stays hard. I'm working as hard now as I did when I was in my early 20s, trying to prove myself. I still feel like I'm trying to prove myself, and I am. As are a lot of people in the studio. But what I'm relieved about is sometimes I do step back and I go, well, I'm working with, as bad as it gets, I'm working with awesome people I genuinely, like to be with, and who we laugh about, we have fun doing what we do. And it's tough at times, but how can you possibly complain about creating fantasy worlds that are fun and interactive with people that are super talented and friendly and great human beings? It's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Huh?
Yeah.
Good lesson.
I'm sure you feel the same,
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. Cyan Art is asking, this might be a good example of something that just isn't feasible with this budget for Hellblade, but he wants to know, he says, ask them to include a photo mode. This is essential to Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. How do you feel about a photo mode?
We're developing one, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, great.
Yeah, we are putting one in the game. And it causes a hell of a lot of problems, because the camera can cut through things and, it breaks your game. But it's in there right now, and hopefully it'll stay in there. Yeah.
Awesome, there we go. Ron Seidel says, since Ninja Theory are the ones publishing the game, is there any possibility we could see Hellblade on an Xbox One in the future?
Our focus, from the start, was PlayStation 4 and PC. So we'll get that out of the way, and then we'll see.
Gotcha. So many people were asking this. How long is the game?
Okay, so I can't give you a definitive answer because until we get all the enemies mapped in and all the save points and checkpoints and everything working, I actually don't know. But what we've always said is it'll be about half the size of a typical AAA game.
Are you envisioning somewhere around like the 6-hour mark, the 2-hour mark? Do you have any sort of ballpark?
Well, I would be happy if it was like, if we managed to make it around the same as something like Heavenly Sword, which was, considered a short game for a AAA game. But I'd say, the typical action adventure game is like, I don't know, 10 to 12, maybe pushing 10, 12, 14 hours. So if we're doing, we'll be somewhere around there in the half of that mark.
Okay.
I honestly can't say. We haven't set the difficulty setting there. Like, so it'll be half the size of a typical action adventure, and about half the price is what we've always been saying. So, but what I hope it is I hope it feels like there's no filler in it, right? That it feels like it's a good, worthwhile experience that will stay with you, and it doesn't feel like it's padded out. Because I think that's sort of one of the things I find frustrating about AAA games is this idea that you have to justify the price point, and so you end up, or you're encouraged to fill out the game with stuff that actually, if you wanted the pace you wanted it to be at, you probably wouldn't put it in there. I don't think we've fallen too much under that trap in the past. Hence, our games have traditionally been a bit shorter, maybe. But
yeah. I think like Inside, like you mentioned before, is a great example of just being tight, no filler, make it all meaningful and move on. And no one really complains about the length of Inside. It's just seen as, this is just a masterpiece.
Yeah, totally.
Also, a shocking amount of people are asking about New Game Plus. Do you have thoughts on New Game Plus for Hellblade?
New Game Plus, like DMC Definitive Edition?
It might be,
yeah. We don't have any plans. I mean, but that doesn't mean that nothing will happen. I mean, with DMC, I sort of think that worked out pretty well in the sense that we didn't. Yeah, okay, we had a Virgil Bloody Palace DLC plan, but in terms of a special edition, we didn't plan anything up front. And then when the game was out, we listened to what people were saying. We listened to people's feedback, and we talked amongst ourselves about what we wish we could have gotten into the game, and then we came up with the definitive edition, and we put so much stuff in there that was so positive, and it was really well received, it sold really well actually as well. We probably won't leave Hellblade to die, but we don't have a plan for what we would do for it.
Okay, interesting. Let's see. M. Hassan is wondering how close to finishing the game is the team?
We're at the point where we're pulling our hair out, but we haven't quite started stabbing ourselves in the eyeballs, right? So we're getting there.
How do you know when you're done, when you're self-publishing this thing? Can't you just keep it in the oven for as long as you want?
Well, we're already late on the game, right? That's no secret, right? And so that's not good. Because being late means we're also over budget, which means we're not getting, and which also means we're not getting any money into the studio, right? So, like, we can't just keep going on forever. Like, we do have constraints. What we are doing, and what we are focusing on, is getting to the end of the game, polishing the last chunk of the game, which we are in the last chunk of the game, polishing and cramming as like hell. And then once that's done, we'll put it in front of a bunch of people, invite some people to play it, play test it, make sure that everything makes sense, crunch the hell out of that just to make sure that the experience is smooth and what we want it to be. And then we'll stick it in submission, and then Sony will tell us whether we pass or not, and we probably bounce a couple of times. So there's still a bit of a road, but it's not this endless vague thing. It's we know what we have to do to get it done.
Gotcha.
We work really hard.
And Amazon is also wondering, is there a genre that you guys have always wanted to sink your teeth into?
I'd love to do. I think I'd love to do horror. Like,
Nope.
yeah, like I think I'd really like to do something really, really scary.
I mean, Hellblade certainly has like its disturbing elements, but you're going for just straight classic horror.
Right. But it might be too much to go from this, which does have some elements, as Ben said. There's some elements that actually feel quite a bit like a horror game. To another horror game, it might be a bit too much. So I might need a break to do something totally absurd.
Turn yourself into a family-friendly kind of guy, and then go back into the dark horror. I'd imagine it seems like you guys are interested in VR. You had a little demo, so we could see Senua in VR. And imagine horror and VR go together so well. That would be an avenue you'd be interested in.
Yeah. But it's almost too easy in VR. Like it's almost too easy. I really admire like Alex Garland, like Ex Machina. There's this sort of area of horror which is less about jump scares and more about suspense and like growing suspense and realization and paranoia. Like that's just kind of what Kubrick does.
Yeah.
And I think a story-driven horror, like a horror thing in VR, story-driven with characters with that kind of sensibility would feel quite different to the horror you get, right? Which is chainsaws and guts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Silent Hill, more that kind of vibe. I'd love to do.
Oh man, a lot of fans are excited to hear that you like Silent Hill, that you're interested in making something in that vein. Just make the sequel to PT. It's easy.
PT was awesome. So good. Yeah.
It's a shame.
Shame about that one.
And Gaybach wants to know rough release date.
Okay, so rough release date. I don't know the release date myself. I promise you that's true. In fact, we were scribbling on that board there just before this podcast.
Oh, you're welcome to go turn it around whenever you'd like.
Which we've covered now. But the reason I don't know is because I want to make sure we get to the end of the last level of the game, look at the whole game as a whole,
right,
and then go, how much do we need to do to make this good? And it'll definitely be this year. And hopefully not, not the back end. So it's coming. And when we're confident we know, we'll announce it.
I'd imagine you guys feel pressure to not be thrown into the mix of the big holiday releases. Is that a big discussion?
Yeah. So that can be dangerous for a game like ours, which is a smaller game. We don't have a massive marketing budget. So we just have to make sure we're not coming out at the same time as Halo or whatever.
Right. The natural competition to Hellblade, Halo.
Yeah. It isn't. It's like all the attention goes on a certain game for that week or month, and you're just lost in there. So we've got to be careful when we release it. It's hard to say. I was hoping we could announce something soon, very soon, but even recently. But just want to make sure we don't announce a date and then screw it up.
Sure. Yeah, totally understandable. Well, hey, that's it for questions. But is there anything else you wanted to say? Anything else to get off your chest?
No, I think I'm just grateful to you guys for your coverage. Because you guys are massive in terms of readership, and you could have picked any one of the upcoming big AAA games, and to pick out of the blue, to our surprise, a game like ours. I think it shows a real love for responsibility, or finding the rough in the diamond, or the diamond in the rough, rather.
The rough in the diamond.
It's really appreciated.
Yeah, well, I hope you realize you have an interesting story. This game definitely has an interesting story around the development, and so it's our pleasure to share it, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, well, hey, thanks for Skyping in and answering the fan questions. I'm sure they all appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in next Thursday. We'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.